The main character opened his eyes and looking around confusedly, asked where he had ended up. He wondered what kind of other world this was, and when a goddess appeared before him, he couldn't hold back. He asked if this was a challenge. The boy remembered his past life and said that he did not want to go where those guys were going, to which the goddess replied that she understood everything. After a few moments, he opened his eyes and thought that it had been a strange dream. Then he wondered if he had been sleeping on the street. Looking around, he asked what kind of place this was. The main character looked around and did not understand why he found himself in a forest. Whether this was really another world, he could not believe that this was happening. When the boy heard his voice, he felt that something strange was happening to him. He looked himself over from head to toe and asked where his school uniform was. After that, the boy suddenly grabbed his head and thought that now he had really become a completely different person. The main character said that this could not be. He understood absolutely nothing. Panic was evident on his face. Fuji was racking his brains on how to calmly recall everything. At first, he was with his classmates, and it seemed as if he had just spoken with the goddess. He remembered that last conversation about the challenge to another world and said that he actually did not care. But if he had to go with those guys, no, he refused. Fuji thought, probably because of his stubbornness, he was sent separately. He has no calling. Instead, this is more like the beginning of a rebirth. He decided to start with his own face. He approached the nearest river and looked into the water. Fuji saw that he had an incredibly cute face, pale skin, and a fragile body. And even his height seemed to have become smaller. He touched himself and asked if he had disappeared. Then the boy pulled back the edge of his pants, looked inside, and at that moment sighed with relief, saying that his elephant was in place. The main character thought that feeling this in such a body was somewhat unusual, a bit strange, even sinful. Fuji suddenly remembered that he had a backpack, so he decided to check his equipment first. He saw that he had some food and the most necessary things. He also noticed a pouch with coins and wondered if they were real money because he didn't even know how much they were worth. Fuji carefully examined the contents and asked where his weapon was because monsters could appear at any moment. And at that moment he noticed something. An information window appeared before him, and he wondered if it was really a chest with items. Inside he saw swords of various kinds, a shield and a breastplate, and also potions, and with joy he realized that he was saved. Ranobai insisted that there should be more skills for cheats and asked to show his abilities. At that moment, a window with his status appeared before them. He saw that the traveler skill was level 1 for him. That was a bit too little. He also had unique abilities, detailed analysis and item chest, but both were low level. Fuji asked in surprise, did he really only have skills from the toolkit and the ability to analyze thoroughly? Were these really his cheating abilities? He exhaled deeply and thought about what was most important in this world of information, so he would think positively. After that, the boy decided that he had to analyze everything. He applied his skill literally to every topic and even to those terms that appeared. It seems that his inventory has special properties. He can use the quick equipment function, prepare everything in advance, and equip gear immediately. Convenient. It turned out that the character's level was less important than the class level. Skills depend on the class. The more you use them, the better they become. It seems that in this world, class is the key thing, and he wondered what kind of traveler one could be. True, this world is very similar to a game, but even more interesting. The boy kept thinking about what would happen if he died here. He couldn't test this, so he had to be careful. Staying in the forest until dusk was not an option. He needed to get out because monsters probably roamed here too. He had enough money, so he decided to head to the city first. Fuji decided to walk along the river, saw a bridge ahead, and was glad there was a road here, but suddenly he heard something. Turning his head to the side, he noticed a carriage moving there. Looking closer, the main character was very surprised. The first horse was ridden by an elf girl. He was waiting for it, and in the carriage sat a girl with animal ears. The main character realized that this was truly another world, instinctively hid, and at the same time, looking at these girls, thought it was wonderful. Suddenly it occurred to him that maybe this was how he could get to the city, but the carriage had already gone far. He was disappointed. Nothing worked out. He had ruined everything. The boy was not upset. Just one encounter with a fantasy race gave him excitement. His motivation instantly soared. He was walking down the road, saw the same carriage, and asked if they had been waiting for him. The main character looked closely and realized that the road seemed to be blocked. Something was wrong here, and he rushed in that direction. At that moment, the girl with animal ears was fending off an enemy and shouting that he was attacking. The elf girl shouted ambush and immediately called for full combat readiness. It turned out that a whole crowd of men stood before them. A bearded man ordered to trample the girls and take all the cargo, but forbade killing the women. Fudzy pondered, is this a bandit attack? While this world is really creepy, there are more bandits than guards, and it seems that everything here is bad. The main hero thought about helping them but dismissed the idea. He has no level at all. Should he immediately rush into battle with people? Impossible. There wasn't even a tutorial. Fudzy couldn't just stand and watch, so he grabbed a sword and rushed at the bearded man, immediately stabbing him. The blow was so powerful that he lost his balance and fell to the ground. It turned out he had cut the man in half and couldn't believe it himself. This two-handed mithril sword turned out to be too powerful. The other men, seeing that their leader was felled with one blow, were gripped by deep fear, and at that moment the elf woman said they needed to attack them. After that, she used her magical skill. Windblade, the main hero, looked and thought he was seeing real magic, so everything instantly turned upside down. At that moment, one of the men shouted that he was not human. How dare he kill the leader? Even if small, he would finish him off anyway, and rushed at Fudzy. When he almost caught up with him, he put forward his sword and stabbed him through. The smell of blood made him nauseous, and he realized, this is definitely not a dream. The main hero admitted that he had killed a man because if not for him, he would have been killed. Could it be that people really kill and die so easily for robberies or for the order of this world? He was very sick. The elf woman and the girl with animal ears approached and asked if he had calmed down, to which he replied that now everything was more or less okay. They thanked him and said that it was precisely because he killed their enemies that they had a chance for a counterattack. In the end, they fled, suffering only minor injuries. Fudzy thought to himself that he had just stumbled. The elf woman apologized for not introducing herself earlier, then named herself Ruinessa and said that she was the head of security of this trade caravan. The main character extended his hand to her and said that his name was Toy, but he thought to himself that he had just written his real name Fuji in katakana. Rooney turned him around and said that before handing him over to their master, Mr. Gautlio, he had to wash the blood off in the river. Fuji looked at himself and asked if it was an offer to swim together, and the girl replied that she understood it was more convenient for a handsome woman like him to travel disguised as a man. The main character tried to explain everything, but he was interrupted and reassured, don't worry, everything will be fine. Then they began to take off his clothes and he asked them to wait. The girl with the ears did not listen to him, after which she took off all her clothes and added that there was nothing to be ashamed of at his age. Everything was still ahead, and then she began talking to herself. The main character felt that this world was too intense to perceive, and he began to wash his face. A little later, when they had finished all their business, he felt that somehow he had not given himself away. He saw a man standing next to Ruin Ease. He was introduced to an impressive gentleman, Mr. Goltio, head of a trading company. He turned out to be very friendly and offered to give him a ride to the city of Kel Niffy. The main character thought that was very cool, wanted to get there, and said aloud that the place seemed interesting, to which the man agreed and added that the dungeon in this city was called the Baldark Labyrinth. For the sake of treasures and loot, adventurers from all over the world flock here. There is an incredible bustle here. Goltio said that he now runs business under the name of the trading company Goltio, based in Kel Niffy. Fuji advises, if you want to go to the dungeon, first register with the Adventurers Guild, then everyone can enter there. But to get rich, real skills and strength are needed. Exploring dungeons is a risky business. Usually people go in groups, but the more people there are, the harder it is to divide the loot, and if someone doesn't trust their comrades, it leads to problems. Fuji said he understood and mentally decided, dungeons are by no means a friendly place for a loner. Goltio added that if he had the means, he would buy a servant and gather a party with him. The main character asked about the servant in astonishment and thought to himself, they really exist in this world. Although in reality it rather resembles a higher-level contract, they also have rights. And if they are forced to do something not specified in the agreement or treated inhumanely, it is a violation of the law. Goltio also said that he almost forgot he had not yet given her to the main character. The man handed over 2 cards and said that this was the achievement card of the bandit he killed. The main character looked at the card in his hands and noticing that it glowed slightly asked in surprise, is this really a record card and what is it about here at all? To this, Goltio replied distrustfully, do you really not know? Fuji realized that he could use a thorough analysis. He showed that this card appears from the chest after death. They can be exchanged for money and management. He was shocked by the thought that cards really come out of people. The main character laughed loudly and answered no to his question, then added that he hadn't seen this for a long time and that's good. Goltio also told him to accept his thanks for saving them, after which he took out a pouch. The main character said he couldn't take the money, he didn't do it for that, but the body itself lunged forward. Goltio said that he was a noble person but warned, if he does not thank him, he will tarnish the name of the head of the trading company Goltio, so he asked him to accept it for his sake. The main character paused for a moment, then agreed. The man said they were almost there and the town of Kel Niffy was already visible. The underground city of Kel Niffy is a huge metropolis, second only to the capital, buzzing and thriving thanks to the underground economy. The dungeons are called the Baldark Labyrinth, and he told Gulu Theo that he plans to stay in the city a little longer. That man himself escorted him to the recommended inn and even prepaid for several months of accommodation apparently. Fuji really took a liking to him. When he entered, it seemed to him as if this was his first place in another world. There was a special atmosphere here, and upon reaching the room, he said he was tired and was glad for the bed. The main character looked at his clothes and thought that they still smelled of blood. He needed to wash them before sleep, so he decided to go and bring a basin. The landlady explained that there is no running water in the city. Instead, magical circles of water mages' stones work. And of course, there is no soap here, so he would have to wash with plain water. Fuji was upset he had not washed at all. Here a bath was a luxury. The city had only a few public baths. Private ones were only for the nobility, and usually the body was just wiped with a damp cloth. The toilet was simply a pit with a bucket at the bottom without any drainage. Paper was expensive, so they wiped with leaves. Apparently even this hotel was considered quite decent. He of course expected difficulties, but everything here was arranged simply terribly. When he got under the blanket, he said he was cold but had no change of clothes. The only set was at the laundry. I can't even go out to eat like this, and I so want hot rice. At that very moment, the main character sneezed and immediately thought to check how much money he had. From the goddess starting equipment and 10,000 gyrials, and from Goltio also 10,000 gyrials. As those men said and as the analysis showed, the rebels' currency in this world is almost equal to 1 Japanese yen. The main character suddenly realized that he now had 600,000 yen, and immediately exclaimed that he could buy everything. He restrained himself and told himself to spend carefully, otherwise everything would instantly fall apart. Tomorrow morning, the first thing he would do is buy spare clothes, and if he planned to go to the dungeon, he would need better armor. The main hero sat by the window and looked at the street. He thought that those people probably also entered this world. Fuji directly said that he did not want to have anything to do with them, neither with them nor with everything connected to that world. He wanted to forget everything. He was tired of just remembering. The main hero clenched his teeth and thought, even in this world I do not want to go through this. Yes, now he was no longer Fujiug, he had become a toy. He had to throw out of his head that boy with that name and think only about the future. The main hero decided that in this new world he would live only as a toy, and determination burned in his eyes. He said it was wonderful. Playing alone was everything to him. He would take from this world everything he could. But after such a tense day, he was exhausted and only wanted to sleep. And at that moment, a window appeared before him where they wrote about a new item. The skill level increased, and along with it detailed analysis, status management, and class settings were upgraded. Now you can change your current state at any moment. He could no longer keep his eyes open. Meanwhile, in the city of Malgus, a girl who was Princess Ermerda asked what all this meant and if they were sure, to which the men before her answered yes. The man in glasses shook his head and said they had checked several times. There was no mistake. Among those summoned from another world, there were several people with the hero class. The princess exclaimed that she did not understand. They were called to save the kingdom, but meanwhile people grumbled, saying how to live without smartphones. These locals were so strange. Among the heroes there was a criminal, and she exclaimed that this was nonsense. One of the men heard her last words and became angry. Meanwhile, the dark-haired girl anxiously asked if Fuji was there. She was sure he had been with them the whole time, did not understand where he had gone, and called his name in her thoughts. The main hero was sleeping quietly in his bed when a message appeared in the information window. He is a born hero. The brunette never really managed to talk to him. If only she had the chance to see him again. And then it occurred to her that the main hero was somewhere else, and now he was alone. It was hard for him. She stopped, gathered herself, and said that thinking about it was pointless. First she had to do everything in her power, and then look for him herself. She asked the boy to wait for her. At that moment in the royal capital, Margus Hermira stood on the platform before the people, and one of those present asked whom she intended to teach here. He said he did not care whether she was a princess or someone else, and she pointed her finger, ordered, and called him a criminal, after which he asked who they were to accept that. He even threw in, if they were summoned without permission, and then they say they do not know how to return them, is that really serious? The boy got angry and asked if they were not being harassed, to which the princess said to calm down. She had said it was a request, not an order. Ramerta said they were called to save the kingdom from an inevitable threat. Now monsters are beginning to appear massively throughout the country. To avoid this, it is necessary to clear the first 10 floors of all dungeons and destroy a certain number of monsters according to records. This will stabilize the situation. If nothing is done, in a few years the monsters will break out of the dungeons, and the country will suffer terrible losses. The princess addressed everyone and, calling them heroes, begged them to help so that they would visit the dungeon more often. She assured that they would be provided with everything necessary and they would live in the castle without needing anything. However, the ritual to return to the native world has not yet been found. The princess said that as soon as they complete the mission, they on behalf of the entire country promise to find a way to return them home. Ermerda also said that if after victory they suddenly want to stay in this world, they will be given a noble title. The girl nearby could not hold back and asked if they could really live in the castle with noble status. At that moment the storm hero Hade Utsuda said that therefore they still have no choice. The golden hero Sadao Doi said that whether it is the dungeon or something else he does not care, as long as they give him something he can smash. The man in glasses told him to wait. First, they need to undergo a course of peaceful education, and the first month should be devoted to training in combat and magic. This is for their safety. At that moment, the first man exploded with rage, turned to him, shouted for him to shut up, and began insulting him. It turned out that this was the passionate hero Shinji Akaba. He said that they would do everything their own way. He already wants to test what this hero is capable of. At that moment, a man in armor approached the princess and ordered her to step back, saying that even if these people are heroes, this is already too much, but the girl stopped him. Amrita said that she understood everything. If someone wants to go to the dungeon, immediately let them form squads and try, they will be provided with equipment. The man asked her if she was sure about it. She resolutely replied that she was and explained. If they want to let them do it their way, better that than if force was used against them. Suddenly a brunette shouted to her Sayaka Iskashima, the alchemist. She said that it seemed they should have another companion and immediately asked if she knew what was wrong with him. The princess firmly said no, they did not know in advance how many would be called. According to their data, it was a group of 34 people. Sayaka looked around and suddenly realized. No one even noticed that the main character was not nearby. People were only discussing the dungeon and whom they obeyed, and at that moment Shinji hit a man and ordered him to disappear from sight. The girl decided it was better to stay away from this guy and the others. Hey told him not to break his bag. Sayaka thought that would be better for Fuji. Then at the hotel, a woman asked why, if he ate everything. Their portions were such that the girls usually did not finish, to which he simply asked where it was better to shop here. The main character decided it was time to go out into the city and look around. He took a bag and resolutely headed there. Waking up and washing, he felt as if he had seen something in a dream but could not remember what exactly. Looking in the mirror, he thought that even after a night's sleep nothing had returned. He looked like a boy, or rather like a girl. Inside he was still 18, and he looked again at his face, wondering if he could appear younger. Reborn, he decided to become a completely different person. Maybe it would be easier for him not to carry the past with him. He decided to perceive this world as a toy and enjoy it. The main character sat at the table. Food was in front of him. He remembered that morning's steak, that portion, and it was clear that he really enjoyed it. The hotel is good. I will have to thank Oltio. While he can live here, he needs to figure out how he will earn a living. Finding himself in a city with a dungeon, he immediately decided to explore it. He sat at the table, opened the information panel, and decided to think over what he had seen last night. It seemed that status settings and class management had been added to his skills. Status gives freedom. STP characteristic points can be freely distributed, but for now it has 0, so it doesn't matter, it will come in handy after leveling up. But the next point, class management, is much more important. You can change class at any time, just choose an available one, and although usually in this world only temples can do this, it seems he can do it himself at any time. The main character received this information stunned, and thought as if his gamer brain had woken up. Imagine changing classes. We even thought that he could change the class right on the spot, adapting to the situation. The main character decided that it was cool. It looked like a cheating skill, so the more classes available, the stronger it would become. Now in his basic skills are traveler, peasant, cook, merchant, and porter. Peasant is his usual state, and traveler and cook because he constantly traveled and cooked for himself. Everyone has their own conditions. But with 2 special classes, Avenger and Hero of Revival, everything becomes much harder. To become an Avenger, you need to survive over 100 terrible situations and keep the spirit of resistance within you. And to become a Hero of Revival, God must recognize you, and you must be reborn from another world. He did not like this at all. He thought that one should not take revenge. Even after the birth, he did not intend to take revenge. Let everyone forget about it. And this hero who was reborn is clearly a unique class. If he starts using hero classes, problems will definitely arise and he will be quickly identified. He decided not to use these 2 classes for now. He would just be a peasant or a traveler, and later he would try to get a combat class. The main character finally reached the city. He looked around and saw different people, merchants, and interesting goods. It seems the trading company Gultio literally holds everything in this city, from everyday goods and food to weapons and armor. He approached their building and thought about how big it was. When he found this inside, it seemed to him as if one store hid another, a kind of local version of a department store or shopping center. Toy decided to take everything necessary for living in a hotel and put it in a drawer for things, change of clothes, underwear, socks, and that would be enough. The main character also thought that he needed spare weapons and armor, and also needed to buy potions. Then the boy wondered if he could manage on his own at all, and while he was thinking, Galtel noticed him. The man was glad that he looked at him immediately, and the main character greeted him in response. The man asked if he was really looking for something. Toy said that he was starting to prepare for the dungeon alone, so he was struggling with what to do best. Coltio immediately remembered his words. After that, he returned to the main character and asked him for some time. Then they began to go down to the basement. The men said that this was the floor where servants were placed, and PY ordered him to wait. He himself was not going to buy anyone. To this, the man replied that he understood the idea of servants did not please him, but it was better than risking it alone. There are even those who have already been in the dungeons. If the servant is bound by a magical contract, one need not worry about betrayal. The contract limits actions and forces secrecy. Godio asked him how he felt about this idea, saying that just by looking at them, one can find clues, to which the toy replied, will he just look? He felt that the word servant sounded humiliating. Perhaps that is how it is in this world. But he did not want to buy someone's life for money and did not wish to be like those bad people. They say that sometimes both the family and the person themselves survive only by selling them as servants. If you look at it as a hiring system, maybe it's not so bad. At the same time, servants are divided into voluntary and controlled. The main character thought that this money still came from that man. He had resources, so maybe it was worth trying to hire someone. In one of the chambers, a girl whispered that he was so cute and asked if he wanted to become her master. And another boy added that he could make him happy every night until morning. The main character blushed deeply at their words. Goltio said that such servants are expensive. He was just warning him. The man added that with the funds available to those who can go into the dungeon, he would most likely only be able to provide a specific list. 6 people stood before them, 2 of whom were girls. The main character activated the analysis skill and saw that all these people were of different classes and at different levels. Even among the servants there was a priest. They were all beginner-level explorers with single-digit levels, but even so, they outclassed any new peasant explorer. Those who were not peasants also had basic skills and bonuses to attributes. Goltio simply said, if he needed someone of a higher level, it was better to look directly through the Explorers Guild. Toy thought that for now he himself was a melee warrior with a sword at the front line. If he were to hire someone, it would probably be better to take a tank or a healer. He thought that he did not like it. For 2 million yen, it did not look like a profitable purchase at all. A heavy fighter, a willing servant, cost 200,000 and a priest 220,000. Suddenly the hero remembered something, turned to the man and asked if there was someone like that elf yesterday, say, a wizard. Goltio said that there were few mages, so even fewer servants. Right now he had no one to recommend, to which Toy asked if there was still someone. The man replied that among the controlled servants who committed serious crimes, there was one girl wizard. The main hero was fascinated by the words about a serious crime, and then asked if he recommended her to him because she was dangerous. To this, the man replied that it was not about danger. If he wanted, he could look, but in her case it was different. No one wanted to take her even for pennies. Toy pondered, was this some kind of hint, or was she really a difficult but charming tsundere who would eventually become attached to him? When they reached the required cage, the man said that this wizard was over 300 years old. She was old and she was not counted on as a workforce. The main hero looked at her in shock and asked if she was really 300 years old. He thought that this even surpassed all his guesses. Goltio said that during magical experiments she had an explosion, and the blast wave destroyed everything in the area. She says it was an accident and there was no evil intent, but there are damages and also a sentence 100 years. The guy was again surprised when he heard about these 100 years. The man said that they say she has a mixture of elven blood, so she lives so long. By law, tomorrow she will be sent to forced labor in the mind. The main heroine thought that at her age it would be difficult, but at the same time she had only a few days left to live. He exhaled deeply and thought about what he had hit. Then he turned to the man and asked if he could talk to her. The man replied that if he wanted, he could. The main hero approached the cell, greeted the grandmother, and said his name, then asked if he could get to know her. At first the old woman was silent, then she said her name was Analyz. He asked her if there was a place she would like to go. The old woman said that if it were possible, she would very much like to go back to the dungeon. Toy said he was buying it. He understood. It was only for him. After all, even after reincarnation he remained the same and did not change at all. Soon they went home together. He threw the old woman on his back and wondered what he was doing. He remembered how once he himself carried his grandmother from the hospital on his back. He recalled how Goltio asked if he was really sure about the purchase. After all, the master of the servant is responsible for the service. If he signs the contract, he will be responsible until the very end, and the boy silently signed. Toy wondered if he had been too impulsive. The day after rebirth he bought a servant, and she turned out to be an old woman. He still has money, and for a small fee she can live with him in the hotel, so for now she will not have to starve. When they entered the room, he thought, her on the bed, him on the floor. Even if they lie down together, nothing will happen. It would be creepy to wake up and find her cold next to him. At that moment, he had no idea that this old lady named Analyz would turn out to be an incredibly valuable person. It was the 3rd day after rebirth. The main character woke up on the floor and slowly began to open his eyes. In front of him stood this old woman. He was scared, and she apologized and said that she had taken his bed. He remembered that yesterday he had made an arrangement with that old lady, loudly admitted that she had frightened him, but immediately added that everything was fine, then asked how she was feeling. She replied that thanks to him she felt better. At that moment, an incomprehensible sound was heard. The main character asked her if it was the sound of her stomach. She was silent, and then he said that now he understood everything. They were going to eat. They went downstairs and a dish was placed before them. The boy said that the fish portions here were also huge, so he suggested splitting it in half. The main character turned to the old lady and asked if they should order more meat. When she was chewing a piece, he had a thought whether she was really that old. Her teeth showed that she was still strong. The main character addressed her and called her grandmother. She sharply replied that she was not his grandmother. Then he called her by name and she asked to put the prefix "san" next to her name. He asked if she had a lot of experience in dungeon exploration. She answered affirmatively. He was glad. Great, I want to ask about everything related to dungeons. And she said that he could ask anything. The main character thought that although she looked weak yesterday, it seemed she had come alive after avoiding being sent to the mines. Maybe she was just hungry. He applied the analysis skill to the old woman and realized she was a high-level mage. Although she barely walked and was fragile, in parameters he could not even come close to matching her. She explained everything to him down to the last detail that a novice would need from equipment and dungeon exploration rules to registration in the Explorers Guild, and how the administration exchanges criminal cards for money. In the Explorers Guild, almost everyone is a melee warrior. Archers are hardly seen. Students usually go to the army. Arrows are expensive, so solitary explorers quickly go bankrupt and only the rich and nobles use them. The main character asked how many people are usually in a group, 5 or 6, and she replied that such a number is optimal. The balance of power and distribution of loot work best. Toy asked if it was really too risky to go into the dungeon alone, and she replied that it was reckless. At least a scout is needed, because beginners are easily killed by traps and sudden monster attacks. The main character realized that he would have to ask the group first, and thought that he really did not want the risk of his reincarnation becoming known. And Analyz said that if she was with him, everything would be fine. She would find traps and monsters with magic. The main heroine asked if she could really do it, and he thought to himself, it turns out a mage can perform several roles at once. Now it is clear why they are so valued. Toy told her that there was one thing, and it would still be difficult to take her with him into the dungeon. Probably he should leave her waiting at the hotel. Going through the dungeon with a grandmother on his back looks like real torture, and it was exactly such a trial she asked for, so that he would take her with him. Emily said that if she became annoying, he could just leave her there. She had to break into that dungeon. It was clear how much she really needed it. The main character smiled and said that he understood everything and they would go together. He thought that they would try to do everything they could. After some time, they reached a gloomy dark labyrinth, and he thought that finally here it was, his first dungeon in life. They passed through the portal and found themselves on the first floor, and the main character said that it was more spacious here than he thought, and brighter than he expected. Analyz said that this place is called the entrance floor. From here you can choose one of several routes. Paths diverge and merge again, but eventually all lead to the boss's room, although in reality this is not even a physical dungeon, but rather resembles a game subspace. He turned to the old woman and told her not to tense up and to follow him. He would handle the fights himself. Somehow he felt that the initial armor was too heavy, so he replaced it with leather. Shocked, Analyz asked him what had just happened, and he replied that it was a quick outfit change, a very convenient feature of his inventory. The old woman asked if he really had another box of things, as if before becoming a traveler he had been a loader, to which Toy replied that this was not the case at all, it was innate. Analyz asked him if this was a unique skill and if the sword in his hands was made of mithril, to which he inquired if she really understood what that meant, then smiled and added that it made him truly special. As soon as he returned to her, he felt that her soul was leaving her body, and he began calling her, begging her to return to the earth. Analyz said she was impressed. His skill and this sword were an extraordinary rarity, so it was better not to show them to people anymore to avoid envy, and then she asked him to look ahead. When he turned around, it turned out that the monster was already there, a gray rat of the first level. The boy asked her to wait because he was not yet mentally ready, and as soon as the monster lunged at him, he took the sword and cut it into pieces. The main character said he succeeded and an item dropped from it. It was rat meat. He thought they were not that fast. With this sword, one light hit was enough. He returned to the old woman and whispered for her to stay behind and just watch. She could only advise. When he looked where she pointed, 2 rats were already standing before him, and he was confused. While the main character hesitated about whom to attack first, Analyz used her fire magic. Toy was stunned. 2 items dropped from the enemy's sharp front teeth and a piece of rat meat, and the old woman said she was level 21 and monsters on the first floor could not compete with her. She also said that she has experience as a swordsman and will correct all his mistakes. She immediately began correcting him. The stance should be different, more weight needs to be added to the strike. The main character thought, this granny is simply incredibly cool. Maybe he really wasn't wrong choosing her among all the servants. Having been reborn, he found himself in this world, not yet realizing how important it was to clean the dungeons here. At this time in the royal capital Margus, the action was unfolding in the castle, and people were asked if everyone was ready. They say that immediately 14 people want to go to the dungeon, and among them are 3 heroes led by Mr. Akaba. While the rest stay in the castle, they will start with the basics and training. Sayaka was among them. The princess glanced at those present and wondered in surprise how it happened that everyone was evenly divided, some with a criminal record, others without. Sayaka turned to Akaba and asked if she should prepare better first. Akaba sharply asked, "What are you ordering?" And meanwhile he called her a chemist. A group of girls asked, "Are you seriously going to study even if you end up in another world? It's much more fun here, studying will be boring and it's much more profitable to follow the heroes." To this, the hero of the Blue Sea Ikki Mizusawa replied that rushing into battle without knowing anything about this world is simply unwise. He prefers to first carefully understand his own strengths and capabilities. Aplaba cursed them and said that they are weak people, so they might stay here forever. The princess thought that even in that world he seemed like a leader. Those who supported him and stayed here behave cautiously, more can be expected from them, but the problem lies entirely elsewhere. And in that company of 10 heroes, among whom was this leader, he stood out the most. His records included serious crimes, assault, blackmail, and even arson. Obviously, he is completely indifferent to others' interests. He is very dangerous and can be cruel even to his allies. Even if he manages to clear the dungeon, there will be no guarantee that they will not turn their weapons against them as soon as their mood changes. Probably thanks to the powerful skills of the hero class, they will easily pass the initial floors. But then real teamwork will be needed, and here the question arises. The ritual of summoning heroes was officially announced throughout the country and funded by the state. It is an important national project, so failure here cannot be allowed. The princess said aloud that, "They say the dungeons in the royal capital are much more difficult than others," and Akaba immediately asked her what she said. Her murder seemed to say, "From the very beginning there is no need to rush." She asks them not to overexert themselves because she feels they will not cope and they need the courage to retreat. To this, Akaba got angry and said that it is precisely in such moments that true heroes are seen. The princess felt that they only had reckless courage so far, and quietly asked herself whether she could lead them and make them true heroes. It became interesting how it would all end. It seems everyone has their own opinion on this. As it turned out, those were the thoughts of the goddess. She looked at everything from above and sincerely wished all the heroes good luck. At this time in the labyrinth on the first floor, several days had already passed since the main character and the old woman began exploring the dungeon together. They decided not to take risks, and for now focused on leveling up the first floor. Here the main monsters were gray rats, so they properly equipped themselves and explored it without problems. The level increased, he got used to fights, so now he easily handles even a small pack of weak monsters alone. Although in reality it was all thanks to Analyz, who senses enemies in advance with her magical intuition. In the dungeon, monsters usually leave behind only dropped items, and their bodies simply disappear. Sometimes rare, expensive things drop, and that is a real joy. It was noticeably hard for Analyz to walk all the time through the window, but she never complained. He decided that now they would take more breaks and rest more often, and at that moment he addressed her by name, saying he wanted to discuss something. When he explained the situation, she asked him if he could really change to another class by himself, and at the same time said they should eat first, to which he agreed. Analyz shrugged. Changing class is usually only possible in a temple and it costs a lot of money. He just smiled. "It seems I can do this thanks to the additional skill function Analyz." The old woman asked him what he had just said, to which the main character replied that he was talking about the skill to analyze. She burst out asking, does he even have the analysis skill, and then immediately asked how many unique skills he had in total. Finally, Analyz asked him who he really was. The mithril sword in his hands clearly indicated that he was by no means an ordinary traveler. To which the main character asked her to calm down. He would definitely explain everything to her, but then he thought to himself. Honestly, he still did not fully understand himself. Today he wanted to consult whether it was worth changing class before the boss fight on the first floor, so he asked for her opinion. When he looked over the list again, he noticed that now it seemed he could choose the explorer class, the one who explores dungeons. Basic skills, dungeon crawling and treasure hunting. Analyz asked him once more if he was really an explorer, and then added that it was indeed a great option. The explorer is a fairly advanced support class. It has very useful skills, but since it is not a combat class, they are rarely used. Among the skills are danger sense, increased item drop chance, and a few other useful tricks. The main character asked if it was a weak class, and she replied that it was much stronger than a peasant or traveler. Levels grow faster, and it was a very profitable class for him, to which he said that was great. They were standing on the first floor near the entrance. At that moment the boy decided that his first shift was about to start, and at the same time chose the explorer. After the decision was made, his appearance changed a little. The glasses were on his forehead. It was incredible, they looked very cool. The old lady thought it was very cute. After that, the main character decisively decided to use the skill to move through dungeons. He stretched his hands out in front of him, and his body seemed to be clothed in magic. When he unleashed his magic, suddenly a door appeared in the wall before them, wooden and with a handle. The main character opened the door and said it was like a door to another dimension. He thought that in this world everything was really possible. Immediately, he found himself again where they had returned from last time, and it surprised him greatly. Analyz said that the door could be placed wherever they were, but it disappears after one use. He thought it was a real cheat skill, simply incredible. Yes, it consumes a lot of magical power, but it is enough for the return trip. It would save them a lot of time, and most importantly, significantly ease the burden of the old lady. He was surprised that others did not use it. It seems this scout class is usually taken by experienced adventurers for quick clearing. The conditions for obtaining it are to reach the 10th floor of the dungeon or to defeat more than 10 monsters alone. He accidentally fulfilled the hidden condition. When he turned to the old woman, he saw that her soul was leaving her body again. He shouted her name and begged her to return to the earth. She explained that she had almost died, then apologized to him and said that she had so many surprises one after another that she almost forgot how to breathe. Analyz asked him not to share the class change or movements in the dungeon with anyone. It is a source of problems, and he agreed. The boy said that everything was cool. The new class seemed good. Today he could leave earlier. He needed to tidy up the item box. Then he turned to the old woman and asked if she was hungry. She shyly apologized to him for the question, unworthy of a servant, and then asked if he was a hero. The main character caught his breath at her question, sharply turned away, asked why she thought so, and finally answered her no. Analyz said that before she was sent here to Kel Niffy, she was a servant in the capital. At that time, rumors were already circulating about a large-scale summoning of heroes in the capital. One person out of 10,000 can have several unique, extremely rare abilities at once. An ordinary person could never manage that, she thought. Maybe he was somehow connected with the heroes. She apologized to him and asked him to forget her words. He noticed an old woman similar to her, brought her here to the dungeon, and whoever he was, he always remained her protector. Analyz said she did not know how much time she had left, but she would be grateful to him until the end of her days. The main character looked at her. He became sad. He said her name and was about to confess everything. Suddenly he felt a strange sensation. She asked what happened, and he, a little confused, replied that he was not quite sure. But it seemed that the treasure hunting skill had been activated. Tui approached the wall and said that it was somewhere behind it. She replied that with magical sight she did not see any hidden doors. He asked if he could physically break through it. Analyz suggested Tring and at the same time used the physical magic mana hand. She concentrated all her magic into a huge fist. He managed to break through the wall with his fist. Behind it was a secret room. When they went inside, they saw that there really was a chest of treasures. He said it looked very expensive. Analyz said that at first glance it was clear. This was a high-level chest. Chests rarely appear on the first floor of the dungeon. Her magical sense does not detect traps here, but simple mechanical traps such as poison needles are quite possible. If he had doubted, she could have done it herself, but he replied that everything was fine. The main character thought to himself that he did not know why, but it seemed to him as if this chest was meant specifically for him, and he said aloud that he would open it himself. Opening the chest turned out to be extremely easy. Looking inside, he saw a bottle and asked what it was. While the main characters described the bottle, it was transparent, and he guessed it might be some kind of potion. Analyz was increasingly amazed with each of his words. She fell to the floor. The boy asked her what happened. The old woman began to tell what was really going on. She could not believe that it really existed. He asked what it was, whether it was really that rare. It is a potion that lifts curses, made exclusively in dungeons and cannot be artificially reproduced, and it costs over 100 million gorillas. After this, the main character turned to Analyz and asked if it was precisely because of this that she so passionately wanted to get into the dungeon. The boy asked again if the search for this potion really drove her into the dungeon, to which she answered yes, and her body trembled. She confessed, after her body became like that, she could no longer properly explore the dungeon, and although she tried to create it herself, in the end a terrible disaster happened. He approached her with all his might to ask about the potion, but she immediately stopped him and stated that it was an incredibly rare potion. It appears on the market once a year, or even less often. She asked him to take it to Galtio and exchange it for money. She was content that it existed. Maybe someday she herself could buy it. The old woman asked him to calmly think everything over. If he sold it, he could hire as many people as he wished. This was not something worth spending on to buy an ordinary controlled servant for 200,000 partisans. The main character said that everything was clear and understandable to him, and then asked if she really wanted him to spend it on himself. The boy said that then he would not exchange it for money, and Analyz instantly shouted at him. At that very moment, he began to open the bottle. The main character said that he would use this potion on his friend, asked if there would be any problems from this, and then began pouring it directly on Analyz's head. The old woman did not expect this. She turned to him and tried to ask why he was doing this. But she did not manage to finish. Suddenly she began coughing, and it was clear that she was unwell. Someone immediately asked what it was and if it was even normal. Had her body not withstood the effect of the potion, he cursed, and did he not think that it should have been given in small doses? When the main character touched her body, he exclaimed that it was hot and immediately called her by name. Suddenly the whole room shone with a bright color. When the light finally went out, he saw that in his arms was a young girl and immediately asked who she was. TVA blushed and called her by name. Felt so tender. The girl responded to that name and confirmed his words. He wondered if she was not too beautiful. The main character turned away and said he was happy for her. And the girl became embarrassed suddenly. Then did she realize she was without clothes and apologized to him for her appearance. Toy was shocked at himself. He thought that she had transformed from a feeble grandmother into a lover, an effect stronger than he could have imagined. He suspected something like that, but the contrast was so enormous that he simply had no time to understand what was happening. At that moment, Analyz thought that the boy had seen her naked. Although yesterday her body had already been wiped, so now it was too late to be outraged. She turned to him and asked if they should return to the hotel. He agreed and said they needed to go to the hotel, and she also needed to change clothes. The main character thought about what a happiness it was that he had the ability to move through dungeons. They quickly reached the hotel, after which they immediately entered the room. Suddenly it occurred to him. It turns out that now he will have to constantly live in the same room with such a beautiful woman, his maid. 2 weeks have already passed since the day they were summoned to this world. The class Sayaka was supposed to belong to is alchemist, an industrial profession not for combat at all. Besides alchemists, there are herbalists, blacksmiths, craftsmen making items, and tailors, here all of them honing their skills in local workshops. At that moment, one girl exclaimed that the magic potion was finally ready, and another added with relief that it had finally succeeded. Psyche does not take direct part in the dungeon exploration. Her task is to provide everyone with the necessary supplies and equipment. The hero of Azure Sea and other guys from combat research undergo thorough training, testing their skills, and then they will form groups and go into the dungeon. At that moment in the Metropolitan Dungeon in Joel's labyrinth on the 3rd floor, Ahaba asked if they were being arrogant, then told the scouts to work as usual and explained that because of them, they are constantly attacked by surprise. One of the guys said that he did not demand the impossible from them. He made them carry all the things and then asked how they were supposed to fight now. The guy said again that it is impossible to fight properly with the things. The girls standing aside asked if they would return soon because they were tired and the mister had already finished. Akaba said that these girls had completely broken down. He blamed them themselves. They were shooting magic randomly and creating a home for themselves, so until he gives the order, they should not go forward. The golden hero explained why he was placing heirs here. Hate threw out that he was weak and only pretending to be a leader. Akaba instantly turned to them and asked if they said something. After that, they rushed to fight each other. The girls who were watching said that it started again and all this terribly annoys them. The rest of the people started talking about the enemies coming again. Soon they found themselves in the castle, and the princess asked if they retreated again because of quarrels in the team. The main thing is that no one died. That's already good. It seems they have some caution. At that moment in the laboratory, a girl turned to Sayaka with concern, asked if everything was okay and if she was not too tired, and then asked her to rest. Her name was Konomi Mukumura. She was an herbalist. Sayaka sincerely thanked her, said she would work a little more, and sent her to rest alone, to which Konomi could not hold back and asked if she was worried about the main hero. She also said that she had almost never talked to him and therefore knew almost nothing about him. But it seems that after the fire in his house, he stopped going to school. She continued, saying that since he was not with them, maybe he never came to this world. Sayaka said that at first it seemed to her that he was nearby, but she could not assert that. The girl confessed, once the main character helped her a little, so now she wants to help him in return. She's going to go and look for him. Sayaka confessed that she is probably imposing this, it is just her own desire. And a spark flashed in Konomi's eyes for a moment. The girl said that she was fine, handed her the potion and asked her to drink it, adding that she was happy for her their chemist had grown so much. Sayaka said that she misunderstood everything. It is not like that at all. She thought to herself that she just really wants to meet him again and talk. Meanwhile, in the city of Kel Niffy, which stretched 1,000 kilometers southeast of the capital, everyone was whispering. Yesterday on the 1st floor, traces of a highest-ranked chest were found. They thought since it is the 1st floor, then they have a chance too. They wondered who found it, but nothing was known about either the finder or the contents, and no one had to tell the guild about it. One of the men said that he himself would have kept silent if he had found the treasure. This lucky man was incredibly fortunate. At that moment, the main character suddenly jumped on the bed. He could not understand what was happening, whether it was a hotel or if it was even a dream. That guy thought it was some strange dream, as if Analyz had changed, and at that moment he felt something soft nearby. It turned out it was not a dream. He remembered that the old woman had become younger now she looked like a young girl. After yesterday's Analyz, probably feeling relief from becoming young again, cried like a child and it was not easy at all. No wonder, she finally got rid of the fear of dying at any moment from old age, and apparently all the accumulated feelings instantly burst out. He even wiped her body with a damp towel. She did not want to let him go, so he had to sleep with her until she calmed down. The main character thought that, of course, nothing had happened, and at the same time it seemed to him that it was probably true. The boy decided to wake the girl and invited her to breakfast, saying that they still needed to go shopping, so he suggested she take his spare clothes for now. The girl woke up, rubbed her eyes, called him, and suddenly realized that she was lying on the bed without clothes. She immediately dropped to her knees and began to sincerely apologize to the main character. Then, with a trembling voice, asked if they really had done it. The boy began to panic. The girl continued and whispered, how could she, a simple servant, repay his kindness even after 300 years she would not be able to? The main character asked her to calm down and not think about any gratitude or debt. Toyastra, stop already with those talks about servants and masters, it was just a person who needed help, and there was a potion nearby, just lucky. Moreover, if she lives long, it will be a success for him too. Then he told her to pay attention to these words, it is good for both, and the girl was crying meanwhile. Later they went down for breakfast. He thought she was eating a lot to gain strength, but it turned out she was just eating very much. The main character looked at her and laughed, saying that Analyz remains Analyz. She apologized to him and said it was simply delicious. After that, the boy looked at her figure and thought he understood everything. Of course, she needs to eat more. He asked aloud if they were going to buy equipment. After some time, they found themselves in the Goltio trading house. The girl tried on the outfit and he thought it was simply wonderful. She asked him if he liked it, and he thought that now she seemed like an adult sister. After shopping, they were again in the dungeon, and the girl happily said that her body had become very light, her magic had significantly improved. She was in great shape, and she effortlessly dealt with all the enemies. Suddenly, she shouted to the main hero, "Duck!" As arrows flew toward them, she deflected each one with her sword. Analyz sincerely apologized to him. Her magic turned out to be too strong, she even activated distant traps and immediately asked if he was injured. She also explained that she used to wield a rapier, so knocking down arrows with a stick was not a problem for her. And the one could not understand who this girl was, she seemed stronger than him even in hand-to-hand combat. He thought that her deep knowledge and high level were due to age, but when he found out she was only 18, he could not help but ask himself, was she a genius? The main hero suddenly realized that was not the case, she must have worked incredibly hard. At that moment, he was extremely serious. The boy decisively decided he needed to try as well, but first to catch up with Analyz. They approach the boss's room, and the boy begins to get nervous, while the elf says that with her mithril sword they will manage if they behave calmly. The boy says he will try to handle it himself. He asks her to help if it becomes dangerous. On the 6th level, the boss of the first floor appears a giant rat. The rat lunges at him, and he notices that for its size the rat is incredibly fast. He thanks his armor for holding up and decides to focus on defense to carefully study her movements. The young man notices that her attacks follow a certain sequence because she is a magical creature. He understands her tactic, 2 scratches and then a full charge. The hero decides to strike back right now. He rejoices he won by himself and the elf praises him, saying it was wonderful. Suddenly a message appeared, the first floor is completed, and items dropped. Elite rat meat and a large rat tail. He shines with joy, the level jumped and a new class was unlocked. The hero is euphoric, exploring the dungeon is true pleasure for him, and no game compares to these feelings. He wants to try the new class and is already thinking about fighting the boss again. She explained, if you enter from behind, the boss won't be there because you can fight him only once a day. Suddenly he realized that he can use movement in the dungeon. He thinks that if he just goes back to the boss's room, maybe the boss will appear again. The hero is happy everything turned out just as he thought, and the boss appears again. He is delighted. Now it is possible to quickly repeat the fight with the boss to improve equipment and obtain items. The young man barely stood on his feet. He went through the dungeon more than 10 times and used all the potions. He is happy although it was difficult. The loot and experience are incredible, and his stats have grown significantly. She says enthusiastically that although he is a beginner and wields the sword uncertainly, he uses his skills incredibly skillfully. Uji thought to himself, this is just knowledge from my past world. He sold the loot, has money, so the hero suggests celebrating his recovery and going somewhere for dinner. The elf takes his hand and calls him master. Analyz says that since they left the guild, someone has been watching them. The elf says that by her sense of magic, 3 are following them. The boy panics, mentally asking himself if someone from his old world is following him. The girl does not believe it is someone from the guild or the guards. She assumes they are bandits and says they are following quietly, not trying to talk. The elf suggests separating from the group in the crowd, and the boy says he will notice them even from the corner of his eye and will understand something based on his assessment. He buys fried squid in the store and, I quote, uses a detailed assessment. They see their pursuers thieves. The elf says everything is fine, there are no more suspicious people in the area. The boy suggests eating in the room today just in case and is glad he bought squids. He looks confusedly surprised why they targeted him specifically and assumes that someone saw him opening a rare chest. Remembering how he bandaged those wounds, he seemed to understand why. Analyz is shocked and asks him to cut the gang leader in half right in the middle of the road. Yuji confusedly confirms that it happened accidentally. The hero recalls how he and Goltio ran into bandits and how he joined the guards to fend them off. He was convinced that all were killed then, but did any of them survive during the escape? She says they harbored resentment and consider him guilty of the failure of their attack. The heroine explains that most criminals and scoundrels in this city are connected with the Sheldon gang, which is engaged in robberies and assaults. She says this is not about personal revenge, he tarnished the reputation of their organization, and now they must take revenge on him. The girl assumes that through the guild or information exchange they figured out who he is. He is desperate, he helped people, and now he is being persecuted for it. They say the ruler is honest and strict, but dealing with crime here is difficult. The city attracts those who dream of getting rich underground, so criminals find it easy to hide here. Yuji understands that even the guards cannot be trusted because they might have been bribed. The hero blames himself. He got into trouble again without thinking about the consequences and believes he always ruins everything. She quietly tells him that he did the right thing. The elf says that it was precisely because he saved Goltio that she was able to meet him. She says there is no need to worry. She decisively says, no matter how many of these thieves come, I will send them all back. Analyz says that the Theos are dangerous only in numbers. Their profession is automatically assigned immediately after a crime, so their skills are low and they act in groups. She says that if you become stronger, there will be nothing to fear. The most reliable way is simply to train your strength, and also there is a bounty announced on their heads. The girl quickly apologizes and says it's better to eat squid, they are still warm. She says that fried squid is the highlight of their town. He tries it and exclaims that it is truly incredibly tasty. The hero says, if he gets scared every time someone looks at him, he won't be able to live normally in another world. Rubbing his eyes, he wakes up. The elf gently wishes him good morning. She asks if he didn't sleep all night. He replies that he slept a little in the morning. The girl decides that everything is fine and there's no need to change the hotel. He is sure Goltio will not betray them. They notice a crowd near the dungeon entrance and wonder why it is so noisy here. Yuji exclaims with surprise that this looks like a real celebration. She explains that the dungeon was rebuilt yesterday. Its corridors changed every month, and treasure hunters will gather the very next day. Analyz notices a jewelry seller and curiously offers to look at his products. The young man agrees and decides to evaluate the goods. He surprisingly comes across something interesting and hands Analyz earrings, saying they will suit her very well. The hero explained that these are magical earrings that enhance magic and offered her to try them on. She shyly agreed. Putting on the earrings, she became shy, blushed, and asked, "How do I look?" He says that they suit her very well, and she gratefully replies that she will take care of them. Yuji convinces himself that this is just a gift from the owner and nothing more, but panic overwhelms him, and this creates an awkward silence between them. Analyz asks hopefully if she can instead choose something for her master. In 20 minutes, she chooses a necklace for him. He cannot understand what this thing is. Her level is too low. The young man decides to buy the necklace. It looks safe, so she thanks him and puts it on, although she still cannot analyze it. He awkwardly asks Analyz if they are attracting too much attention. Two adventurers approach them with an offer to join their group, and the boy convinces himself in his thoughts that they are just kissing. In response to the offer, Analyz asks, "Do you want a fireball?" He also thinks that Analyz is too beautiful, and her figure is a real dream. She says that her master is much nicer. At the entrance to the dungeon, he sighs with relief there are no thieves, and says that it's time to go. Entering, he exclaimed, "Now it's time to look at my new class." He activates the class change and becomes, quote, a hero with a two-handed sword. Analyz is stunned. She says that such a class is extremely rare and incredibly powerful, like heroes from legends. He notices his high base stats and useful starting skills, for example, self-healing. The guy explains that the skill team makes the whole group stronger. Analyz is delighted, it's incredible. He decides to try out a new skill, a cutting strike. The hero realizes with amazement that this is a ranged attack. The strike comes with a delay, but it looks incredibly cool. He says that the first level will be too crowded, so they will immediately move up to the second. They find themselves on the second level of the labyrinth, and he notices that everything here is almost the same as on the first. Udzi is frozen with surprise. There is a tree in front of him, and he cannot believe that trees grow in a dungeon at all. New monsters appear before them, Ash Golem and Grey Rat, and he anxiously warns Analyz to be careful. He figures the golem is slow, but paired with fast rats, the fight could become a real challenge. Udzi is thrilled. The new class is very strong. It allows saving potions and gives a bonus to weapons, so his two-handed mithril sword is now incredibly easy to wield. He suggests heading straight to the boss of the second level. Analyz immediately agrees. They enter the boss room of the second level, and before them stand the level 7 boss Ash Gallon and the level 6 rat boss. The hero assumes that the boss has a large attack radius and thinks that the rat boss will target him if he gets close. He decides not to go head-on and delivers a cutting blow to the rat leader. The young man notices that Slow Gallum is a perfect target and strikes. A message appeared about an easy victory. They took the second level overnight and took the boss's loot. He decides to take a break, rest a little, and then rush into battle with the boss again to level up. Seeing the crowd, he stops running to the boss, and Analyz is glad that thanks to the underground effect they can move on. She explains that a normal raid is very long. Usually, it takes hours to reach the boss on the second level at the very end, and you have to carry a bunch of stuff, which slows you down. The girl added that strong adventurers hire carriers and live in the dungeon for several days, and he even exclaimed in surprise. Uji asks how time is determined here, and she smiles and says she has a built-in clock because it is just before sunset now. He decides that enough is enough for today, and the grill gladly agrees 2 levels in a day is a great result. Going outside, he is surprised to see that it is already evening, and Analyz returns to him worried. The hero sees suspicious people near the gates and decides to go around them. He is not going to the guild today. She agrees. Uji clenches his fist in anger and curses that he will have to live again, glancing over his shoulder. The young man is confident that he will deal with them thanks to the hero class, but inside he is still depressed and believes it is not worth provoking someone's hatred. Analyz asks him to calm down. She says he has an analytical mind and she has magical intuition. If they avoid dangerous places, everything will be fine. She confidently says that they are stronger. If they start bothering her, she will press them, and he agrees. He feels uneasy. There are only 2 of them. He goes through acquaintances in his head, but the strong guards have already left. Only the newly found toy remains, but that is not an option. They earned well, so he suggests hiring another worker as a strongman, and she says it is easier to keep secrets with a worker. The hero does not want to do this. His heart protests, but he understands. There is no other way. He thinks that thanks to Analyz they have the funds, so hiring another one is quite possible. The young man makes a decision and says that tomorrow they will visit Mr. Goldhall's shop. The action shifts to the western district of Kernifoy, into the slums themselves. A woman asks a man, "When will you bring that girl?" The man replied that it will be soon. They have strengthened surveillance, and she will definitely visit the Guild of Explorers. A figure in a hood stepped on his hand and threatened that if he does not hurry, he will lose the other hand. The leader of the Shardna gang orders, "Quickly drag that toy or whatever it is." To her, she promises that she will take good care of it. The hero warmly greeted Gultiasan. Gultia replies, "I was waiting for you." Gultio asks if they are looking for a worker again and notices Analyz. The man anxiously asks where he got that from, then hesitates and says that something happened. Gult was shocked. He thought he had seen her somewhere. He explains that this is Analyz and that a lot has happened, and Gultio asks in surprise if he knew everything from the very beginning. The hero asks Coltio to keep everything secret and assures that information about clients is their reputation, so they are obliged to keep the secret. He calms down, realizing that no information will leak from Gultio's shop. Gultio noticed that the boy had grown wildly in 2 weeks, said his intuition was right, and invited him to get to work. Before they buy a new worker, she turns to Analyz and says she wants to tell her something. Yuyuji says that last time when they talked about professions, he didn't understand anything at all. He reveals his secret to her. He has a profession called Reborn Hero. The young man says that her assumptions turned out to be correct. She blushed, realizing that she was saved by a handsome young hero. She asks if the Reborn Hero means that he was resurrected from another world. The hero confirms that he himself was reborn in Kernifoy. She understands where he got these unique skills from, but does not know the obvious things. Analyz asks if he broke up with his comrades. He says he rejected them himself and under no circumstances wanted to be with them. He says he wants to hide that he is a hero, so he decided not to use this profession to avoid attracting attention. He apologizes for being such a cowardly hero, and the girl objects. "You are not a coward. I am proud to be able to be by your side." The hero finishes the story before Gultio and notes that buying workers is strange. He replies that the demands are clear to him. He lists his demands to the workers. Not a criminal ready to fight without a profession, with a budget of about 400,000 grills. Gultio asks to wait while he selects candidates, and adds that it is desirable for the employee to be able to choose a profession from scratch. The man introduces the candidates and says that according to their conditions, mostly inhuman representatives are suitable. He is stunned by the variety of races: elves, dwarves, beastmen, and does not know whom to choose. The hero fixed his gaze on the mighty Dragonian, the sickly elf, and the child. The young man saw the goblin and instantly realized, in this world they are not monsters but an intelligent race. Goltio sadly explains that the goblin was sold by his own parents. He admits that at 20 years old he could not find a job. The boy thoughtfully considers his choice. Analyz believes in his choice, but he hesitates thinking that the dragon will attract too much attention. But there is another interesting candidate. Having decided, he resolutely tells Goltio, "I will take the goblin for 80,000 grills." Goltio says in surprise that this goblin wants to become the king of hand-to-hand combat, and that is really strange. The hero asks to prepare the contract, says that everything is fine, and adds that he noticed something interesting. Goltio says he will settle everything now, and then suddenly it occurs to him. Can an elf get along with a goblin? He sees that Analyz is calm. She explains that her parents had no prejudices and that she herself is a half-elf. The hero signs the contract and she asks, "Didn't you notice?" Analyz tells him that the goblin is a girl. She is shocked. He shouts that this is a real girl goblin and he himself had not guessed it before. He thinks that after this Goltio will think he has strange taste. Goltio thanks him for the purchase. He asks if materials can be sold here. Goltio replies that they buy rare things more expensively than the guild. Very convenient. Goltio warns him about villains in the city and asks that in case of difficulties, he should contact us. The merchants will immediately catch the rumors. The hero, with relief, gratefully says that so far everything is fine. He thinks that Goltio knows everything and no longer wants to owe him. They meet Roselina, and she with burning eyes replies that she will try with all her might. Toy says first gear up, then into the dungeon to level up. Roselina is glad that she can finally fight. He laughs, and Analyz tells her that she is very enthusiastic. She complains that she would like to fight with fists. He asks her to use the mithril sword and says he will take a spare. He asks Analyz to hold one monster with magic. She agrees and uses a mana hand. He orders Roselina to finish off the compartments for rats and shields. She joyfully exclaims that her level has increased. He enthusiastically praises her and says that today they will level up very quickly. Analyz and Roselina agree in unison. The hero, out of breath, enthusiastically praises Roselina. She replies that she is still full of strength, and he only marvels at her energy. He notices the queue to the boss and suggests taking a break. Roselina asks what they will do next. Roselina is delighted with the fried squid, and Analyz warns, "Do not tell outsiders about their master's unique abilities." Roselina, on the contrary, enjoys the fight and the tasty food. He is impressed by her movements, and Analyz says that she wields the sword better than him. The girl says that she always dreamed of fighting, so even after she became a worker, she constantly trained in her imagination. She sincerely shares her dream of becoming the king of the fight. From constant training, she did not work at all, so she was sold. He encourages Roselina, gladly promising that her level will soon jump up. Their conversation is interrupted by a beastman who laughs at the fact that they brought a goblin with them. The beastman mockingly insults Roselina, saying that the goblin will not cope with the boss. Analyz coldly says to check who is really playing children's games. The beastman continues to threaten them. The beastman asks if they have problems and says that they were the first to offend his friend. That guy grabs him by the ear. They are stopped by a giant bear beastman. He apologizes for his friend who, according to him, went too far. The bear beast explains that his friend's tribe has long been at odds with the goblins. He says he is still a novice and does not realize who he actually got involved with. The man thoughtfully looks at the group of beastmen. Roselina apologizes, thinking that everything happened because of her race. He comforts Roselina, saying that it is not her fault. He adds that racists like that wolf beast should simply be forced to shut up by force. The young man admires Roselina's incredible combat talent. He believes that she can already fight well even without their support. Roselina asks if she can fight with bare hands. He agrees. The goblin rushes into battle with bare hands and she shouts, "This is an incredible feeling of life." He says that the fighter profession would suit her, and Alice notices that she has reached level 10, so something should happen soon. The hero explains that his skill showed. As soon as goblins reach level 10, they transform and their strength sharply increases. He adds, at this moment the class also automatically changes to the most suitable one, and here luck and talent decide everything. The hero exclaims, "Level up." Bright light envelops Roselina and she screamed. The light disperses and Roselina appears in a new form. She joyfully exclaims that she has evolved. She shines with happiness. She has become a true goblin hunter, and proudly shows off her new horns and the profession of Ballamaster. Analyz and he were completely shocked by her transformation. Roselina recognized her and immediately noticed that she had grown. The girl enthusiastically praises Roselina, saying how beautiful she has become, and he quietly notices her model figure and tall height. Roselina admiringly enjoys her new movements, and he also panics realizing that he has become the weakest in the group because she is becoming incredibly strong. He says that Roselina has turned into a goblin fighter, and at the same time gained a powerful, unique profession, a hand-to-hand combat master. The heroine explains that her profession does not allow her to carry weapons, but her hand-to-hand attack is extremely powerful, and the skill fighting spirit temporarily boosts her stats. Toy notices that thanks to her agility she easily dodges attacks, so she perfectly fits the role of a tank dodger, attracting enemies and constantly avoiding them. He sincerely believes that he is extremely lucky to have Analyz and Roselina nearby, as if he has a hidden gift of luck, and the goddess herself protects him. The young man feels that half a month has passed since his rebirth. The air is getting colder, winter is approaching. Roselina says that she is fine. She worries that they will have to wash with cold water, and he suggests asking them to heat the water and rent a separate room for the girls. Eliza is categorically against it. She firmly says that she will not be able to protect him if she is not in another room. Roselina suggests sleeping on the floor. He notes that there is only one bed in the room. The young man recalls how he suggested sleeping on the floor, and they both started shouting that it was unacceptable. He says that they easily passed the third level. A cobweb flew into him, and Analyz anxiously asks if he is okay. He thinks Analyz. He understands that monsters of this level are spiders, and he does not like it at all. The young man notices that Roselina pays no attention to the web at all, while he himself feels uncomfortable due to attacks from all sides. He is outraged at how the spider releases threads, and he sees with surprise a cotton thread has fallen from it. Analyz explains that trading cotton thread from the dungeon is a common thing, and thanks to the city's policy, its price remains stable. The hero understands that the industry was built into the dungeon to control the number of monsters, and considers it a smart decision. Returning to the hotel, he asks Analyz to help him test one ability and hands her a rope. Smiling, he asks her to tie him with this rope as tightly as possible. She screams in panic. This is not at all because of some hobby, honestly. He explained that he just wanted to check whether he could break free if some bandit caught him, or managed to catch a box with things. The young man tries to put the web sword into the drawer. The experiment succeeded, and he is happy that everything worked out. He realizes that if the web does not fly too fast, it can be intercepted in midair and will not reach the target. He understands that this is a real web, not cotton, and you can control it yourself. Analyz explains that a regular item box simply does not hold movable or shapeless things. She says that his box is a unique skill. It preserves heat and freshness but cannot preserve living creatures. Suddenly he gets an idea. He decides to prepare it and test it in a fight with the boss. When he sees the huge spider boss, he decides to try to handle it alone and asks Roselina to step back. He confidently says that no matter what the creature is, spiders have one weakness, and he activates his item box. Roselina is shocked. Why is he using magic? He explains that it is Analyz's magic, which he just pulled out of the box. He realizes that this is the purest cheat. You can stock up on offensive spells in advance and use them without any risk. The young man finally understands. This other world is always about the item box, even though they give very little experience for the boss. He is happy the conditions for the new profession are met, and it has finally been unlocked. Roselina shouts that it is unfair and wants to fight one-on-one. He promises her that next time it will be the same. They not only passed the third level, the fourth was also easy for them, and their levels gradually increased. He thinks that leveling up is a real thrill, and with Roselina he can leave the seeker profession to get bonuses. Formic acid hits him, and Analyz explains that it does no harm but damages equipment. He grumbles that he got dirty but replenished supplies. He is advised to wait until the hotel where they will heat the water. He sighs, wondering what the heroes are doing in the castle now, but decides he doesn't care. In the capital of the kingdom, 1,000 kilometers from here, someone sneezed. The girl was calmly enjoying a bath in the royal palace when suddenly someone entered. Almeida says that sometimes late at night she goes into the pool. Seika replies that she just has a lot of things to do. Seika says she will not interfere. Almeida gently reassures her, saying there is no need to worry so much. Almeida suggests talking a little if Seika doesn't mind and calls her by name. Seika is sure. The princess remembers everyone, only forgot the hero. She will gladly agree to talk if approached as a conversation partner. The girl admires how magic intertwines with alchemy, and they will meet a person interested in the world of science, who admits that it is hard to imagine the world without magic. Almeida asks if Seika was looking for someone on the day of the summoning, and Seika, embarrassed, replies that maybe it just seemed to her. Seika thought if Fujimi-kun wanted to stay away from Akabana, then it's better not to tell the princess about it. Almeida sincerely thanks Seika. Her potion is highly valued by the soldiers, and the palace supplies have improved. The girl asks Seika not to overexert herself, even though she was called without permission. Seika replies that she loves to experiment, and says that the princess's words helped her calm down. The girl asks if the princess has trouble because of the heroes, and Almeida sighs, admitting that it is indeed a big problem. Almeida can no longer endure it. She is annoyed by the constant quarrels of the heroes, the cruel treatment of the servants, robberies, thoughtless squandering of supplies, and daily complaints from investors. She says the biggest problem is the lack of results. The heroes cannot get past the third level and do not even try to act together. Almeida apologizes for complaining, and Seika smiles and says it's all right. The girl says that the hero Ashrases will appear soon. She hopes that his team will join him later. Psycho strongly says that production professions will give the heroes everything they need, and that she is already working on a bunch of useful things. The heroine offers the princess a small bottle of aromatic oil. She prepared it together with the apothecary and has already added it to the bath. Almeida understands where that pleasant smell comes from and sincerely thanks Eika. She says the conversation really helped her. Seika shyly apologized. I'm a bit uncomfortable with this Ikusima-san, please call me something simpler. Almeida agrees with a smile, calls her Sika, and she screams out of embarrassment. Sika, embarrassed, dives under the water and calls for help, saying that she has fully talked with the princess. At that moment, the one on the roof sneezed, and Roselina noticed how the people below said that there were many of them there. Bandits are searching for him, swearing that he has disappeared again. Coming across bandits loitering near the hotel, he realized that he had relaxed a bit. The hero thought that defeating them was not a problem, but others would come after them, so it was better to stay away. He remembered how Roselina covered for him. Analyz apologizes for not keeping track of the situation, calms her down, and says that it is not her fault there are many bandits in the city now. Roselina asks what happened. He anxiously thinks that if this continues, the hotel might get into trouble because of him. The girl suggests changing hotels more often. The paid month will soon end, and the money is fine. Analyz sadly agrees that it is reasonable, but it's a pity the food here is so delicious, and he smiles awkwardly. He does not know what to do. Everything is fine with Dengian, but the bandits do not relent and do not give him peace. Roselina enthusiastically proposes a brilliant plan, to smash all the bandits to pieces, and then her master would not have to hide. In panic, he rejects her idea, saying that 3 against a whole gang is too much, and that the city master would have dealt with them long ago. The hero thinks that the main obstacle in cleaning up is that the bandits have informants among the officials. He looks at his profession card and thinks that if he uses it, he will manage to come up with something. The hero, with a sparkle in his eyes, says that he has a brilliant idea regarding the bandits. He is going to use a skill from his new profession. He decided to first try out the profession tomorrow in the dungeon, and before that, to level up a bit and improve his skills. Analyz suggests setting off earlier upon waking up. He says that he needs to buy equipment. The girl inquisitively asks about his new profession. He smiles and says that the name is a bit grim, so he invites them to see for themselves. He activates the class change and instantly appears in a new image. Profession: Assassin. The girls are stunned by the assassin class. He explains that by defeating the boss with the help of an item, he accidentally fulfilled a special condition. He is amazed at how strong this assassin is. Among the initial skills are stealth and divine speed. Analyz says she has only heard of such professions by rumor. She assumes that it is a criminal profession, which is automatically called a thief, something from the shadow world about which there is no data. Roselina decides that he is going to slaughter all the bandits. In panic, he denies this and swears that he had no such intention at all. He says that he is not interested in the combat power of the profession, but in the skill called stealth. He asks them to turn around for a minute. They turn around, see that he has disappeared, panic and call him, and he appears behind them saying, "I'm here." He explains, the stealth skill allows you to completely mute your presence and become invisible, but it won't work if you are already being watched. Analyz feels, in this state you can move unnoticed, so it is perfect for secret infiltration. They look suspiciously and ask if he plans to use this skill in the sauna, declaring it indecent. He screams in horror that it is a crime and he never wants to have another profession, and Analyz says she was joking. Analyz assumes that he is going to sneak into the bandits' lair and kill their leader. He replies that he does not want to be so reckless. The hero explains that even if it leads to revenge, it will solve nothing, and he thinks it is wrong to decide for everyone. He says that actually he will break into the administrative building, and thanks to the ability to analyze thoroughly, he will be able to find out who is connected with the bandits. If you provide convincing evidence, the landowner will take up the matter himself. He believes that if the spies are exposed, the bandits will lose their influence. The young man decides to devote the whole day to leveling up the assassin. He understands that this profession is simply incredibly strong. The hero says that the skill of hitting the vulnerable spot is dangerous. It guarantees triple critical damage from the very first stealth attack. He notices that there are no weapon restrictions, even two-handed weapons can be used. The basic stats are already high, and the skill Divine Speed enhances agility. After the attack, the invisibility effect disappears. Fighting a group is difficult, but for Roselina and the others, it's not a problem. Toy believes that this profession is best for a loner. He feels this is a preliminary course for mercenary assassins, and the reputation will be the worst, so it must be kept silent and secret. The guy leveled up the assassin to level 10 and says, "Now everything is fine." The next day, he sneaked into the administration, and can't believe it himself. He did not expect to find himself in a stealth game in another world. He thinks the main thing is not to show his face. If something happens, he can always escape thanks to Divine Speed. She is shocked. The officials not only cooperate with bandits, they take bribes, embezzle funds, and with personal cards you can do anything. At level 10, he mastered the skill to pass through walls and erase traces, and believes that such a profession should be banned altogether. The hero came across documents about the stolen treasury. He says this is not theft but a transfer to the authorities. If all cards are checked, they will expose all the spies. He knows if he shows this to the head of the administration, he will be able to cover everything up. So you need to take everything directly into the hands of the lord of these lands. The young man arrives at Kel Niffy Castle and immediately notices the local military are true professionals, unlike the officials. He thinks that bandits hire only simple guards. Discipline here is excellent, probably because of smart commanders, so he decides that the lord must be found as soon as possible. Toy sees that the lord is not in the office and thinks that he has probably already gone to his chambers. He sees the master in the room and tells the maid that he will not order anything, he only asks to bring wine. The maid gently told the lord that he could rest. Suddenly a sign appeared. The ruler of Kel Niffy is Duke Arkan Gardland. The hero thought that before him was a lord. He noticed how mature charisma radiated from him. He sees that the lord's profession is duke. He understands that this is not just a title but a real duke. He thinks that this is the most elite of aristocratic professions, and that this person is stronger than him. He is horrified because the numbers are simply off the charts. He panics, tormented by the thought of whether he has caused too much trouble, so he decides to drop the evidence and leave quickly. The hero suddenly realizes, although the stealth skill is still active, he has already been noticed. Overcome with fear, she wonders who this person is. He almost tore off his mask in horror. He remembers, according to the analysis, the Duke is impeccable, but doubts rage in his soul. Can he be trusted if he might want to cover up family scandals? The Duke notices a folder with documents on the sofa and says, "A moment ago it wasn't here." The man was reviewing the documents and his heart tightened. In the accounting department there were facts of embezzlement and a list of people connected with bandits. He laughs, he finds it funny, and he orders to immediately call Zajian and Balkan. Duke throws his voice into the void, feeling that he is still here. He asks who he is and notices his agility and courage. The bandit wonders who this is, a disgruntled official who fled from the gang, or just an overly diligent seeker. He understands. He brought everything directly to him so that he would act immediately. The hero says that he himself is already tired of the stench and rot in that administration, and decides that they will deal with it tomorrow. He says that he forgives the crime, the intrusion into the castle. The man said that next time there will be no mercy, and ordered him to definitely come here again tomorrow night. Leaving the castle, he sighed with relief and thought about what a horror it was. He needed to meet with the others as soon as possible. Analyz and Roselina call him. He smiles and replies that it seems the Duke is going to act immediately. Shocked, Analyz asks if he spoke with the Lord personally. Toy says that although stealth was on, he felt creepy as if he saw everything through. Analyz is glad that he is safe and sound. Roselina says that they did not waste time. While he was sneaking into the castle, they managed to calculate the approximate location of the bandits' lair. She points to 3 main points on the map in the thickets and says she felt movement underground, so she assumes the leader is hiding right there. He understands there were raids here and the bandits have made escape routes for themselves. This is very inconvenient. The hero says he is used to infiltrations and will look around once more, and Analyz, surprised, asks if he will leave right now. He explains the cleanup will start in the morning, so right now the robbers suspect nothing. The girls say they will go with him. She says it is easier to get there alone. Analyz does not want him to be in danger alone. Roselina wants to hit a couple of bandits. He decides that they will stay nearby just in case. If he does not return within an hour, they will go rescue him. She fears that within that hour he might be killed. He reassures her, saying he can slip away at any moment. The girl reluctantly agrees but warns, if he does not return within an hour she will break in. He says he will return. He believes this is most likely the main base of the Sharding gang. It would be ideal to know where their leader is hiding, or to find treasure stashes. The young man decided, if he finds something truly valuable, he will give it to the Duke and leave immediately. He notes, these are just a bunch of scoundrels, almost no one knows how to steal anything. Except occasionally there are people with truly dangerous professions. The hero finally finds the leader, a woman named Shardina, known as the Bloody Queen, level 18. She is shocked that she named the gang after herself. He wonders what profession the Queen of Blood has. She fiercely asks when they will bring her that scoundrel. They say he was wandering around the eastern quarter. The girl angrily yells at her subordinates, ordering them, if you don't find him, just rob all the hotels. The young man feels that they will drag innocent people into this, so he decides to disappear quickly and switch to treasure hunting. The toy finally ends up in the secret treasury. He is overwhelmed by so many jewels, magical artifacts, and black gold. He swallows his saliva, fights the temptation, and fears that if he gives in and takes even something, he will be labeled a hero villain. Roselina can no longer endure and decides to check the escape route. He notices stairs leading to the dungeon. He looks in horror through the bars. In his memory it surfaces, as far as he remembers, trade is forbidden in this city. The girls notice that he is delayed. Roselina asks if it is time for them to leave, and at that very moment he appears behind them. They ask if he is okay. He says everything is fine and it's time for them to go home, but he barely restrains his anger. He turns to Analyz and Roselina. The young man urges to stop running and hiding, even if the Lord does nothing. He grimly declares that he will personally destroy this gang. Soldiers and bandits clashed in battle. Someone asks distrustfully, "What is happening here?" One of the bandits shouts that it is not so easy to break through here. Balkan bursts in. The bandits panic even altogether, they cannot handle him. The enraged Shardna shouts to her people, "Hold him back at least a little." The girl realizes that it is all his fault and looks fiercely at him, who is standing on the roof. 8 hours ago, and now they find out that the administration is closed, so they will not be able to submit an application. Duke Gardland, as promised, conducted a reconciliation. 8 were arrested for embezzlement and connections with bandits. In his office, the Duke reviews documents and says that the information turned out to be true. Again, the Chief of Staff apologizes. He never imagined that so many criminals could be among his subordinates. The Duke tells his men not to take the blame and admits that he had turned a blind eye to influential people for too long. The man enthusiastically praises Balkan for his excellent work, and Balkan, head of the Night Order, silently accepts the praise. Balkan says with contempt that stooping to the level of bandits is a disgrace when you hold office. The Duke sharply ordered Balkan to immediately deal with the gang, and Zine to completely suppress any information so that rumors would not break through the castle walls. The Duke asks what happened, and Balkan says he felt as if someone was watching them. Tui was gripped by horror. Balkan sensed him from such a distance. He believes that Balkan is not human but a real monster. By profession a night guard level over 40, and he is scarier even than the Duke. Analyz warns him, Balkan is the strongest in this country. They say he cut through the fortress wall with a sword. If you meet him, run away without looking back. In the Duke's chambers, he recognizes him. He says that yesterday's guest came again, although he asked to come at night. Balkan is furious. He entered the castle twice and says that whoever he is, he must neutralize him. The man found himself in the attack zone. He panics and thinks that this is the end for him. The Duke stops Balkan and firmly says that this man is his guest, and if he wanted to harm, he would have done it already. The man asks if he came to see with his own eyes and believes that he was underestimated after all. He provided evidence and punished the guilty. The Duke replied that he has already shown his goodwill and asked if he brought a gift today. He throws the folder with documents on the floor. It contains information about where the bandits' base is located, a list of stolen items, and where their leader is. Sigyn was horrified by what he read. It was about illegals, and the Duke instantly understood. They are the reason for the disappearances. The man shouts that if the information is reliable, they must storm immediately. Balkan warns that it could be a trap, because such information can only come from someone inside. Jijiun is scared. He fears that the robbers might attack the castle. The Duke agrees that it is risky to act until the information is confirmed and asks for Balkan's opinion. Borkin does not feel threatened by this man at all. The Duke anxiously asks, will one squad be enough against 300 people? He decides to send only a small squad so that the castle remains protected. Balkan, radiating confidence, reassures them, don't worry, I will deal with them myself. This old man wants to handle everyone on his own to drive the robbers from the flanks straight into the center, and their plan shocks him. He tensely thinks about the capture of the workers and the leader's escape. He understands they are discussing the plan and doing it deliberately, knowing that he hears them. The young man hisses at the Duke's facial expression. They hint that he should handle the details himself. He realizes that he was deliberately set up so that he would hear the plan. He is angry that he was exposed. The Duke's expression seems to say, kind-hearted seeker. He decided that he would go up there anyway, if the night helps lucky. He turned to Analyz and Roselina, and calmly said that everything is going according to plan. The bandits panic and shout that enemies are attacking them, and these are knights. At the base, the robbers rush into battle, shouting that they have been attacked. They tell her that the knights are advancing from both sides, and she angrily shouts, what is happening and why is her informant silent? The informant excuses himself, saying that the administration was closed, and she gets angry and yells at him because he did not tell her immediately. Suddenly Balkan appears, and the bandits recognize him with horror. The mighty sword Balkan appeared. One of the bandits shouts to the rest not to retreat, yelling that killing Balkan will bring them glory. He looks at the battle and notices that the resistance is stronger in the south. The knight, seeing the inhuman strength of the enemy, gives the order to retreat. A giant bandit easily breaks through the defense of the knight. She activates the skill Moral Boost, and for 10 seconds her physical abilities rapidly increase. She breaks through the wall, thinking that 10 seconds will be enough for her. While another confusedly asks who did this and where he disappeared, the knight screams that the gates are open and leads the soldiers forward. Standing on the roof, he praises Roselina for holding on. though she so wanted to rush into battle and says that this deserves respect. The young man suggests, if the bandits are crushed, they will be able to retreat to the northern base, but it will not be easy for them. He proposes to block the passage to cut off the north. Analyz gladly takes on this task. Since fire magic is forbidden in the city, she casts the spell Mana Hand, a physical attack at full power. She releases a mana strike and the passage is completely destroyed. Balkan feels an earthquake under his feet and notices that the intruder seems to have very skilled comrades. Sardin was informed that the underground passage to the northern base is destroyed. She is furious they also broke through in the south, and they are struggling. The desperate woman thinks they have just been made a laughingstock. She suspects betrayal but does not intend to give up. Chadna sternly warned her subordinate. If unnecessary information becomes known, there will be trouble below and ordered to get rid of all prisoners in the dungeon. The subordinate asked the boss where she was going. Instead of answering, Chardna ordered them to follow her. The subordinate pushed the girl onto the table, holding a knife in his hands, and hissed that their leader allowed everything to be destroyed. The killer sneaked up behind the bandit and slit his throat. The body fell to the ground. He told the prisoner that the knights would soon come to help. He wanted a pattern on his head but did not do it. Chardna and her people were walking through the secret passage. The men were carrying a heavy load and asked if the boss lady wanted to help them, but she coldly ordered them to be silent and just follow her. They approached the stairs. Chardna said that if they climbed up they could get outside. She turned around to push her subordinates but did not see them. The chief did not understand where they had disappeared. She knew that her servants would not be able to escape from her, all thanks to her ability to dominate. The girl felt that there was someone else in the room. Chardna asked if her enemy really thought he could corner her. She activated her skill to remove masks. The girl shouted that the killer must not underestimate the great Chardna and threw the weapon towards Toy. The hero managed to shield himself with a sword. He realized that he had almost died, but thanks to quick equipment, he was saved from the poisonous weapon. Chardna quickly ran away from him. Toy rushed after her, was not going to let her go, so he decided to shorten the way and crawl through the wall. The killer and the head of the barter went out onto the roof. The girl was breathing heavily. She asked if he was a guy named Toy. Chardna said that he destroyed everything she had been creating for years, and now she would have to gather the gang again. He advised her to start with the mines. He said she could work off all her sins there for years, and added that because of her age, the girl might not even make it there. Chardna shouted that she would cut off his legs and arms. The killer and the gang leader rushed towards each other and each swung in the air. But the girl missed the enemy. Sardine retreated and jumped off the roof onto the barrels. The head of the night department approached her. The girl wanted to find out who he was. He asked if she was the same Sardina. Toy felt that Chardna was lonely, although she was surrounded by subordinates. The hero had those he could truly rely on and those he trusted. Roselina and Analyz called their master and he responded to them with a warm smile. Balkan learned that the bases were cleared and the children saved, and the man warned the knights, do not lose vigilance until the evacuation is complete. The leader of the knightly order finally admitted that Mellard was right, and also found him an unusually interesting person. It was the 30th day after the hero's revival. A week ago, Chardna and her gang were destroyed. The city became much safer. Their team was no longer pursued, so they left the hotel, rented a house, and made it their new base, and she was finally going to fulfill an old dream to take a bath. Roselina and Analyz jumped into the bath with him, and the boy looked stunned. They just entered his bathroom. The girls asked him not to be shy, and the witch offered to massage his back. A few days ago, the heroes visited the Galto trading house and asked the merchant to help find a rental house with a bath. The man smiled and said he had a great option. Finally, the guys found a suitable place to live, but when Toy looked at the house, he immediately asked if it was not too huge. The house had 3 floors and a garden, and the hero said that for him and his team it was a real palace. Galto agreed and said that earlier this building belonged to a nobleman and served him as a country house, and the man added that it had a basement and a wine cellar. The merchant said that after recent troubles with bandits, several noble families suddenly lost influence or moved to other cities, so such houses were sold to buyers at very favorable prices. And the man added that the house only needed a little cleaning, and for that, of course, services would be needed. Toy wanted to refuse such a huge estate, and servants the budget simply could not afford it, but Galto thought otherwise. He confidently reminded that the team of heroes could reach the middle floors of the dungeon in just a month, and assured that building a reliable base with an eye to the future is a smart investment. Toy pondered and mentally agreed with him. For someone who descends into the dungeon daily, home is truly important, and the possibility to wash sounded extremely tempting. The boy knew that renting a house and paying for services cost about 80 grills per month. He had savings, so he could fully cover this amount, and the hero decided to hunt bosses more often to level up and earn money. Toy informed Coltio that he was buying a house. Coltio thanked him and shook his hand firmly, said they would start preparations immediately, and asked to entrust him with the choice of services. Toy thought Coltio was a great merchant. Analyz told him that he had decided to make a very bold move. Roselina was glad that now they could train in the forest. The next day the boys met the servants. The chief butler Mondarch was ready to take on any task, his wife Merle stood nearby, who handled cleaning and cooking, and their son Jewel took care of the garden and repair work. The hero warmly greeted them and introduced himself. Gultio said that 3 servants were quite enough for their home, he vouched for their work. Toy introduced Analyz and Roselina, asked that they be treated with the same respect as him. Moglark bowed and said there was no need to speak politely to them. The hero learned that this family once served a noble family in another country, but due to certain circumstances recently moved here and agreed to a very modest salary. Toy did not expect to have his own butler, so he told the servants they could contact him at any time. Mondarch asked how Mr. Toy and Miss Analyz ate, and the girl blushed and said they misunderstood their relationship. Eliz objected and explained as best she could that she served her, but the girl asked them not to even dare to say that. The hero said he was not picky about food for him, quantity mattered more than taste. Toy asked to call his comrades by their names. Roselina, holding the embarrassed Analyz close, admitted that she ate a lot. Mondarch nodded and understood the request. The family of servants worked amazingly well in the house, they were incredibly attentive and cooked like true masters. So Toy, noticing many empty rooms, suggested that Mondarch and his family settle in the mansion. All 3 had combat professions, so their home remained safe even when they were away. The personal space of the Toys team was located on the 3rd floor. He allocated separate rooms for the girls, but in the end they still moved in with him. The hero thought that because of that magical artifact, even in another world it would be impossible to normally use water and the kitchen utilities had to be paid with magical stones, so the bills were biting. Standing on the balcony of Toyside, Analyz approached him and asked the gentleman if something was wrong. The hero admitted that he was not yet quite used to living in such a huge mansion, and that the house he had lived in before was much smaller. The girl, with hope in her voice, asked if he would return to his world if there was such an opportunity, and Toy replied that he now belonged to this world and did not want to live in a world without Analyz. Roselina suddenly hugged her comrades and exclaimed that she had come to them, and Toy said that they had a wonderful rest and would return to the dungeon tomorrow, where they would reach the new 5th floor. Sigyn entered the Duke's office and said that in the recent case about connections with gangs, it was decided to punish 4 trading houses and 8 noble families. Arcane gave the order to deprive the trading houses of their rights and confiscate their property. Sigyn asked what to do with the nobles, and the Duke replied destroy them all. He considered this a lesson for the future. Arcane ordered to expose their crime publicly and execute the heads of the families with their wives and children, as well as adult sons. He added that women and children should be sent to the temple. The Duke said that all relatives and related persons must necessarily present personal cards, no exceptions. Rikishin nodded. Arcane expected that there would be those who would object to such severity. He understood that this was inevitable. He said that the safety of the city's inhabitants was above all, and Zajian promised that everything would be done. The Duke asked if they had found that assistant. The man replied that the intelligence service was still investigating, but among the city seekers there was one suitable candidate. Zajian said that he appeared a month ago and called himself Toy to the travelers, but his image was very blurry, and according to the bandits, that guy was looking for some girl. Saijan will tell you that this guy was registered in the guild as a first-level traveler. He went through the dungeon in the company of an old elf and a goblin, and the Duke stated that this uninvited guest did not look like a first-level novice at all. Arcane recalled Balkan's story about a powerful mage and warrior, and this meant that it was Toy's comrades who had powerful professions. Jijian said that the guy has the ability to hide his appearance and what he does, so either he had a criminal job like a killer, or he possessed some special skill very similar to hers. Arcane realized that they were unable to grasp his true power, and arguing with him would be foolish who wants to wake up one day with a knife in the back. He was surprised that the invader killed the leader but did not take the gang prisoner and allowed the knights to destroy it. The Duke wondered what that guy was planning. Such audacity outraged the ruler of Craniffy. He ordered Zajant to continue vigilant observation until the true intentions of the Toy were revealed. The guys reached the 5th floor of the Baldark dungeon, and the hero noticed with surprise. The monsters of this level were cows, and the dungeon itself was spacious. Analyz explained that cows in the labyrinth attack in a straight line, so they are not difficult to deal with, and the meat that drops is very tasty. The skin and horns are valued as material, and the girl added that the 5th floor is popular among mid-level seekers. The bull charged at Roselina. He wanted to hit her with his horns, but she stopped the beast by grabbing them. The goblin grabbed the horns and flipped the bull onto its back. Toy was breathless. Roselina turned out to be stronger than the cow. The girl said that the most important thing is to choose the moment. A piece of expensive beef fell from the animal. Analyz attacked the cow with fire, saying that there was enough space for magic in the dungeon. The girl noticed that the smell of roasted meat instantly whetted her appetite. The witch shouted to the gentleman, "A bull is charging at him from behind." He managed to jump up and avoid the hit. The bull rushed past and hit a stone. The horn fell off from the impact. The cow laid a stone behind which the heroes stumbled upon a secret chest. Toyna hoped that if he was lucky enough to bring the animal to that exact spot, he would receive a reward. He asked Analyz to inspect the chest and assured that if it was a trap, they would manage thanks to the assassin's skill. The girl noted that the chest had no lock and didn't look like a trap at all, while the witch felt a strange premonition. She ordered to retreat and promised, "I will open the chest together with Manoruka." The boys slipped behind the stone and meanwhile the gigantic magical hand opened the chest. Analyz came closer because nothing was coming out of the chest. The chest was empty. He tried to stop it, but black tentacles burst out and grabbed the girl. The boy cut the tentacles and freed the witch from them. Roselina ran away and slammed the trunk with her foot. It closed so hard that the goblin's leg hurt. Toy wanted to cut his chest in half, but noticed that Mithril could not hurt him. The monster had incredible physical defense and amazing vitality. The hero and the goblin took turns hitting the enemy. They noticed that the chest remained calm, although it was being attacked. Analyz said she would handle the opponent herself. She shouted to her comrades to retreat and warned that she was shooting a fire arrow. The girl hit the monster directly. The chest began to burn. The hero noticed that he was vulnerable to magic and mouth attacks. He praised the witch. The girl admitted that she had never met such a monster before. When they defeated the chest, Roselina noticed something fell out of it, and Analyz picked up the book and said it was Grimoire, an item for changing profession. He didn't even suspect that there were items like the magic book that could change one's profession. After looking at the detailed evaluation of the item, he learned that it was being sold for a very high price. The boy said that it could be sold to get rich, and the witch noticed that in regions without a dungeon, it would cost even more. Magic books were one of the things all dungeon seekers hunted for. Such books could be turned into real wealth. He recalled how Analyz once confessed to him that she had been a swordswoman. He asked if she became a sorceress because of that magic book. Dunya replied that she accidentally came across such a book at the beginning of her journey. At least they said that in their group they decided, whoever finds the book first, that person would use it. At first, she hesitated a little about whether to sell it or not, but eventually decided to change her profession from swordswoman to sorceress. The girl sincerely believed the profession of a mage was worth it. In the dungeon, many professions could be applied. As a warrior or as a craftswoman, she was valued everywhere. He asked if magic could be learned, not just memorized. Analyz explained that magic is a skill used only by magical professions, and to get such a profession, one must go through an extremely difficult path. She heard that a person with this gift has to study in specialized schools for at least 10 years. The girl added that only nobles or rich people become sorcerers, so she, a common person, was able to find a chance in the dungeon. He realized that now he had a chance to become a sorcerer, and he firmly decided to take advantage of it. The boy understood that only he himself could change his profession. After all, Analyz already had this profession, and Roselina also possessed unique abilities. The hero sincerely believed that a team of 2 mages and 1 melee fighter would be balanced and perfect, and he decided not to rush changing his profession for now, because he already had Analyz in the role of a sorceress. While the boy was thinking about the magic book, Roselina had already dealt with the level 5 boss Labyrinth Bull. The heroes left the dungeon and profitably sold materials from the 5th level. Analyz said that this was because scouting the 5th Varley takes 45 days. He was glad that he could relax in the bath every day. He was pleased by the thought that they had still rented this house. The hero firmly told his comrades that they should now move further to the 6th level. Then he glanced at Analyz and asked how many floors she had already overcome. The girl said that she had been on the 5th level in the dungeon of Bald Art. After changing her profession, she moved to the capital and suddenly stopped abruptly. He asked what happened. The girl replied that everything was fine and added, on the 6th floor, monsters became resistant to ordinary attacks. Besides, flying and special monsters appear, so the difficulty increased. Because of such monsters, swordsmen and spearmen either change their profession or are forced to master new powerful skills, because on the 5th level they simply get stuck. Toy began to understand that the 6th level was only feasible for the more experienced. He hoped that they would cope and at least support him with words that they would succeed. The hero spent the night lying between sleeping girls and pondering. It seemed to him that after arriving in the capital, Analyz had received a curse, and although he was wildly interested in what had happened to her, he was not going to force her to speak. Toy never intended to approach the capital. Where his enemies were hiding, he wanted to wipe their faces from memory. But on the other hand, the boy could not say that he needed no one. He remembered Sayaka and immediately assumed that he would never see his classmates again. The boys found themselves on the 6th floor of the Baldark dungeon. Toy noticed that it was spacious and had high ceilings, and he could not get rid of the question what awaited them this time. In the distance, he noticed something rushing straight at them, a stone monster, a level 18 gargoyle. Roselina kicked it on the wing. Landing, she said that the monster was as hard as stone. Toy Toy realized that it would be difficult for them to fight. The enemy flies and is resistant to physical attacks. His assassin profession turned out to be useless. Then he transformed into a hero with a two-handed sword and asked Rosalind to try, I quote, fighting spirit. He rushed at the gargoyle with a bastard strike, and Rosalind hit with a burning fighting fist. The stone monsters began to fall. Hearing that several special attacks worked, Analyz replied that magic also works wonderfully on monsters. The hero tried to encourage the team, but they were immediately surrounded by a pack of gargoyles. Rosalind shouted that there were too many of them. Toy noticed that due to skill cooldowns and mana consumption, it was hard for the three of them to fight. The hero suggested the team retreat to the entrance to catch their breath. When they withdrew from the battlefield, Toy sighed deeply. He admitted that it was very hard to fight when there were so many enemies. Although the boy believed that Analyz's magic would handle the enemies, he still decided to use the magic book, and the witch said it was a good idea. The girl added that she would be glad if she herself became a sorceress like her, and asked if he liked the idea itself. The boy agreed. Toy opened the book from which magical symbols emerged. It seemed to him as if they were already in his head. He saw all the requirements and still dared to change his profession in the end. The hero received a master's degree, and Analyz was surprised. Toy assumed that master was not exactly a mage, or at least he did not know about it. She had heard that sometimes wizards lose their profession, but for the first time learned that this happened to the master. The young man decided to check the information. He found out that there was a small chance to get quote 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 quote. Analyz confirmed this. Now Toy wanted to find out if the new profession would be useful in fighting gargoyles. He suddenly realized that Master is a profession for enhancing magic. He upgraded Rosalind's fire magic to a true fire attribute, and Toy could give allies bonuses to skills and attributes, so he was actually a buffer. The hero could also use a boost after that. Roselina could run very fast. The Toy could apply several different enhancements. Roselina with one fiery kick destroyed several gargoyles. The hero noticed that now the girl was managing completely on her own. Although he expected a different magical profession, the magister turned out to be a good alternative so he could be different from Analyz. The boy noticed that his own combat ability was almost zero. Now everything depended on allies, and it seemed to him that it would be a bit difficult for the three in the dungeon. In the system, the hero came across a life buff and decided to try it. He took a stone, placed it on the ground, and a tiny golem instantly grew from there. The Toy enhanced Iwacha and ordered the gallant to attack, but with such a low level he simply fell apart. He suggested using the life buff as a distraction, and Roselina said they should practice in their free time. With new enhancements, the team went into the dungeon and fought monsters, and at the end of the battle Toy said their level had increased. He sighed deeply and said that they were done for today. From the 5th level they received good materials. The team decided to use them at home. Toy also received a rare item, a fracture stone. Although the tip was not very sharp, upon hitting it almost certainly turned the enemy to stone. The hero eagerly imagined how he would use this blade paired with the assassin. Analyz was glowing with excitement. This tip could turn into stone. The guys left the dungeon and went to exchange the loot for money. The girl was taken to look at F-rank magical stones, and she remembered how last time the same team brought materials from the 4th level. The girl asked if they were already on the 6th floor, and Toy awkwardly replied that they accidentally ended up on the 6th thanks to an experienced friend. The employee advised them to be careful. She warned that these three beauties are well known in the city. He was glad about this news, and when he saw the guy start flirting with his girls, he quickly pulled them out of there. The hero said that although they tried to avoid contact with people in the dungeon, rumors still spread throughout the city, and Analyz suggested that it was because they had been submitting materials too often lately. He said that today they have extra money, so they can go somewhere and drink. He had already informed the servants that they would eat outside, and the girls agreed. The boys came to the Sinnoh Tavern and ordered stewed chicken, clinked their mugs, and thanked each other for the day. Just then a man approached them and asked for a moment of attention. Toei awkwardly did not understand when and from where this man approached them and who he was. He introduced himself as a servant of Duke Goldrin, said they were looking for talented seekers, and addressed those who had already proven themselves. They looked as if deciding whether to recruit him as a soldier. He could not understand how they knew his name, so he assumed they had read it in the guild lists, and the boy himself knew. When the level rises, I begin to call the army. The servant inquired whether he wanted to come into the government to talk, was surprised that they addressed him specifically, although Roselina and Analyz were of a higher level in the records. The hero apologized and said that they probably made a mistake. He did not think that someone like him, a traveler, could serve at court. And then the servant asked if he could give him girls for service. This angered the boy, and he said that even if he were offered mountains of gold, he would not give them to anyone. The man apologized and said that the bill had already been paid. But he refused, left the coins on the table, and told the girls that dinner would be postponed. The servant added that they would soon meet at his house. The hero realized that the man was not an ordinary scout, he was just stalling. When the guys left the tavern, Balkan was already waiting for them outside and sharply declared that he would not let Toy go. Balkan announced to him that His Grace Duke Garland summons him. The man said that the young man would go with him to the palace. The head of the knightly order warned, if he refuses, his act will be considered a rebellion, and then they will have to behead the young man. Toy did not even suspect that Balkan would come for him. He could not understand how that man had figured him out so well. The hero said he did not understand at all what the commander was talking about. He asked why the Lord needed an ordinary traveler like him. Balkan warned that they did not need empty excuses and said that the young man knew the reason better than anyone. He realized that pretending ignorance would not work and was racking his brains on how to get out of this mess. The hero remembered that the man's attack radius was unnaturally large. If he took a wrong step, Balkan would instantly cut him down. He could have escaped on his own thanks to divine speed, but he was not going to abandon the girls. Roselina stepped forward and took a fighting stance. She resolutely declared that her friends wanted to eat as soon as possible and demanded that they clear the way for them. Knight warned the captain that the goblin was the night itself. He shouted that Roselina would not be able to fight Balkan, and the man, noticing her hesitation, sharply asked why she was not attacking him. The goblin girl trembled. She could not attack because she saw that Balkan would still cut her in half with a counterattack. Toy also understood. No matter how strong Roselina was, she could not defeat an opponent almost 3 times stronger, and the boy wanted to come to terms with this, but Analyz distracted him. She whispered that she would try with all her might to hold back Balkan, and they would use this moment to break through. The girl told them not to stop and to leave the city. The elf said that if they took the owner now, he would probably be imprisoned and in the worst case executed. She warned that for the Lord, his existence was as much a threat as a band of robbers. Analyz said that the Duke wanted to eliminate Toy before the master got out of control. She suggested that this was exactly what the Lord was thinking. The wizard stepped forward and ordered Roselina to watch the master. He knew that the girl would not hesitate to give her life for him, and Balkan would show no mercy if the Duke wished so. The boy decided not to run away anymore. Smiling, he said he would go to the Lord himself, and the hero added that it was just a misunderstanding, so it would be better for them to discuss everything directly. He asked if they needed him alone. Balkan confirmed this. Analyz wanted to stop him, but Toya calmed her down, saying everything would be fine and to wait for him at home. And finally he added that if he was delayed, the girls would have to talk to Gortio. Toysfall were checked even before entering the mansion. The hero thought that in case of danger he would escape thanks to his skills, but if he was declared a criminal, the girls could also be at risk. The boy could not understand at all what Duke Garland was thinking. Before entering the Lord's office, Toy confessed that he was not at all familiar with etiquette, and Balkan just waved his hand and said the Duke did not care. Arcane Garland was already waiting for him. In the office he greeted and introduced himself, and the man grumbled that it was hard for him to believe that someone with such delicate hands could defeat Sardine. The young man said he did not understand why he was summoned. That man approached the hero, and his assistant warned the Duke to be careful with that toy. Arcane said that the man ruled Garland as if with his own hands and feet, and added that even the royal house was not capable of that. He repeatedly said that he had no idea what he was talking about. He was afraid. He felt like he was about to be stabbed. The host said he would get to the point. Garland announced that this young man deserved a reward, explaining that without his help the band of robbers would not have been defeated. Toy gave them evidence of corruption, inside information, and help during the assault. The Duke said that if after such preparation the outsider was not forgiven, the knights would not understand. And that man added that the young man's wishes did not matter, he just needed to take the reward. The hero imagined feeling his merits and at the same time receiving a reward. Floor said he had to name Count Segan the amount he wanted. Toy suggested that the Lord simply did not want to pretend to be polite anymore and noticed that he was extremely punctual. The young man thought it would be easier for them to just finish him off. The hero refused the money. He asked Garland to help those who were robbed by bandits and generously reward the knights who gave their strength for this cause. The Duke sighed and said that it was done long ago. He recalled the Sardine treasury and asked if the young man knew about it. The man asked if the young man still would not take the money. He replied that as a seeker he earns his own money in the dungeons. Balkan laughed and said to the Lord, "Listen to the audacity with which this young man speaks to you." Garland decided to give him another reward. The man loudly announced that he raises the toy seeker to the rank of honorary baron. The hero could not believe that he could become a nobleman. Arcane asked the Count to immediately prepare the papers and teach that cheeky young man the basics of noble honor. Sigun said he would do everything, and Toy was advised to come to terms with the fact that he refused the money. Roselina and Analyz met the owner near the estate. The boy was trembling and approached the girls. The elf anxiously asked if he was okay. The boy nodded. The goblin asked what happened to him, and the wizard noticed that he was pale and exhausted. Roselina quickly grabbed Toy and carried him to the bath to warm him up, threw him straight into the water. And after bathing, the young man came to on Analyz's knees. He apologized to the words and comrades. Toy said his brain overheated and assured him that he was fine now. The wizard said they were afraid he would not return to them. Hero, sorry to bother you. The girl asked what happened to the dukes. The gentleman said he became a nobleman. Toy admitted that he still does not fully understand himself. Roselina congratulated him on the new title. The others could not say anything. In the Lord's office, Sijin told the young man that first he needed to figure out who the honorary baron was, handed over a pile of papers, and added that the hero would now master only the basics, and the rest of the details he would study at home. Zaidzin said that he has the rights and duties of a baron, but the title is not hereditary, only for one lifetime, and warned that in case of trouble he must appear before the ducal house. The Count explained that trouble could be war, a natural disaster, or a great hunt for monsters, and added that Toy must come to the council twice a year. The young man asked if he could continue exploring the dungeon. Zizjun replied that there was no problem, but he must behave wisely and not tarnish the honor of the ducal house. Toy sighed deeply. It was important for him to continue going to the dungeon. The Count asked if he understood that any clashes with other seekers and death were unacceptable. The boy promised to be careful. Zijin explained that the estate the young man is currently renting would be converted into a residence. It would be bought out and given to the baron, and Toy was surprised. The rented apartment would become his. The Count opened the suitcase and announced that the honorary baron's salary was 12 million grills per year, and another 3 million for the remaining 2 months. Sigun advised the young man not to get carried away and reminded him that these were just raised platforms for servant accommodations. The man sternly said that he must have at least 1 knight and 5 soldiers, the mandatory minimum to defend with honor. The Count added that the young man must find reliable people, and Sigun advised Toy to choose a surname and coat of arms. The hero told everything to the servants and girls. He muttered that he had too many things to do. The boy asked Mondok to help him master the rules and manners of the nobility. The man assured him that he could be relied upon. Toy instantly realized that he urgently needed to find 1 knight and 5 soldiers. Mondok and the rest of the servants were not suitable, and Analyz and Roselina could not be officially enrolled due to their status. Mondok informed the master that he had an acquaintance experienced in night affairs who was just in the city and asked if he could contact him. Toy agreed. The man also said that he had called a tailor. While the hero was being measured, Mondok announced that the Count had asked to come to the palace as soon as the baron was ready in full parade, and at that meeting Sigun was to approve the surname and coat of arms. Toy felt as if Mondok was helping him a lot. The young man noticed that his hair had grown back again and remembered that he had been in this world for almost 2 months. When the suit was ready, the gentleman asked Analyz if she liked it, and the girl blossomed with delight. Mondek said that the owner looked elegant. Then she went to the Count and they recorded the name and coat of arms. Now the young man officially became the honorary Baron Futsiko. He joined the ranks of the nobility. Toy arrived at the Duke's estate and bowed to the Lord. He took the surname of his ancestors. On his coat of arms was a wisteria flower. He heard that few choose plants for their coat of arms. The Dukes of Gardaland had dragons. Arkane told Toy that he placed great hopes on him. The young man reacted angrily. He did not like being lectured again. The hero wanted to leave, but Balkan stopped him and said he would go with him. Toy felt a bad premonition. After some time, she and the man found themselves on the training field, where the young man lay on the ground, exhausted, while Balkan demanded that he get up. The soldiers passed by the field where Toy and Balkan were training. The hero fell to the ground after being hit by the man. The Baron ordered him to get up. Toy asked how long this would last. Balkan said they would train until he stopped her, and the boy thought he was just mocking him. The man announced that the whole month would be devoted to intensive night training, and starting tomorrow he himself would join them. The hero objected. He had not enlisted in the army and still had a lot of things he had to do himself. Balkan said that this boy needed to be trained, now the rest could wait, and added that people would not serve a coward who hides and acts stealthily. The head of the Order of Knights said that if some boy was sure he did not need training, then let him hit him once to prove it. The hero sighed and switched his weapon to a broad sword. Toy took a fighting stance and requalified as a hero with a two-handed sword. The boy was not going to train hard with the knights for a month, so he was determined. Toy asked if it was worth giving up combat skills, but he himself strengthened with the support of the two-handed sword, body strengthening, and foresight. The man sternly told him to fight seriously. The Baron felt that the air around seemed to have changed, and he became curious about how she would move while holding a two-handed sword. The hero decided to go for a frontal attack. He attacked the Baron from different sides. That man felt as if he was fighting some other person, not this one. The knights froze in amazement how this man wielded such a huge sword so easily. They noticed that Toy was starting to pressure the captain. Balkan noticed that Toy had decent technique and quick reflexes for a self-taught, but very little experience. The man struck Toy's sword and the sword fell from Toy's hands. So the hero decisively jumped up to attack the Baron in the air. He decided to simultaneously use divine speed and a shadow palm strike. The Baron grabbed the youth, threw him, and slammed him to the ground. He said he aimed accurately, but his strike could be easily parried. Toy was stunned. Balkan managed to parry an attack from the blind spot without any skills. The man said the hero had good abilities, but shouldn't count on favorable fights. The boy could be easily caught. The Baron said that talent and experience decide battles, and reminded that Toy should join the training. The hero agreed. The squad rushed to the Baron and asked if he was safe, praised him for how he behaved in battle, and someone noticed that even among the knights few could fight at the captain's level. Toy felt awkward. When the hero came home and told him that he would train with the knights for a month, Analyz asked discontentedly why he returned in rags after every visit to the palace. Toy lay on the bed and cried. He hoped he could return to the dungeon and call the commissioner's attitude towards him mockery, and nearby was Analyz, who stroked his head. On the other hand, the hero realized that dependence on skills could become dangerous for him. So he decided to take a risk and try the experience of duels with other people might come in handy. Dvoretsky approached him, apologized for bothering him, and said he wanted to clarify the schedule. He recalled that tomorrow they had a meeting with the night stranger and asked who he was. Mondarch told them that their guest tomorrow was the commander of the squad of his former master. The knight power was proven, and his character was strange. The thought of the knight's interview made him wildly nervous. He decided to drink a potion to look fresh at the meeting and bruise-free, and Analyz helped him with this. She carefully treated her wounds. The girl calmed him down, assuring that everything would be fine, and reminded him that the knight was chosen by the Lord himself. Analyz thought that if she remained herself, everything would be fine. The next day, the hero met the guest in a suit. He immediately noticed that the knight impressed with his size. Ganderbond greeted the gentleman. I also remembered that I had seen this bear monster somewhere before. The hero instantly realized that before him stood the leader of the beastmen group, the same one who had harassed Roselina near the boss's door. Ganderbond also remembered Toy in the dungeon and asked if he was the same Baron Feutical. The young man confirmed this. The hero knew that the beastman class was a heavyweight knight of the 22nd level. He was a former squad commander, an experienced warrior. Ganderbond sincerely apologized for his rudeness in the dungeon and explained that he did not know that Toy was an honorary baron, and the hero said that he had become a nobleman only recently. The boy asked what happened to the wolf beastman. The bear said that during the fight with the boss on the 5th floor, he seriously injured his right arm, left his career, and went to the village. The boy stubbornly went forward, not listening to his commander. Toa asked if Ganderbond was not afraid that this story would ruin his reputation. The man replied that he did not intend to hide it. When he joined the service, he did not save his ward. The hero was pleased to see that Gander Van was an honest and responsible person. Toy asked what he would do with the rest of the party if he joined the Baron's service. The bear replied that he should consult about his people. The Gandharben squad was waiting for their commander on the street. The deepest dungeon level they had reached was the 6th. Spearman Lin suggested that they would have to change their name if the captain left and abandoned them. Swordsman Bars believed they should support the commander in his happiness. The Fox Beastman Solidia hoped that Ganderbond would tell the Baron about them. The Lizardman Jajak advised her to take a battle stance to be ready to meet the Baron and the captain, and she stated that only the commander could be trusted. All this time, I silently watched them in the shadow of that one. He inwardly praised the squad with all his heart for their composure and trust in Ganderbond. The boy saw that the young swordsman and spearman still had a long way to grow. The hero burst into the estate and ordered the massive knight to call the squad. In the end, 1 knight and 4 soldiers came under the command of Baron Futzical. When Lin saw Toy, she was touched and gently stroked his head. Bars looked surprised. The boy in the dungeon turned out to be a baron. Jajak was stunned and could not understand how the hero had already received such a title at such a young age. Celilia noticed a huge height difference between Ganderbond and Toy. The bear shouted fiercely at the squad, "Do not be rude to the Baron." Then he addressed the young man who had so quickly appointed them and asked if it was wise he had not yet seen their skills. Toy agreed. He understood that the habit of deciding everything on the spot, even after careful analysis, was not always good, so the boy asked if everyone had taken their equipment because they would head straight to the boss. The hero immediately led the squad to the dungeon door. The beastmen did not have time to prepare and did not understand what was happening, and Darbin immediately recognized the teleportation skill in the dungeon. Toy enthusiastically praised the man how well he understood skills. The bear said that he had once seen the team use it on the front line. The Baron warned that the squad would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He wanted no one to find out about his abilities. Two corn bulls loomed before the boss, and Toy did not know if they could defeat the beastmen simultaneously. The squad stood up, ready to charge, and Ganderbond ordered to act according to the usual plan. When two bulls attacked him, the bear used agrifixation as soon as the animals approached. He activated the shield, and the horns flew into the barrier. The leopard and Lin prepared and attacked the bulls from both sides. The spearmen used the skill 3 spears, and the swordsmen rushed into attack with a storm sword. Solidia and Jajak joined them. The boy activated the cutting ability and the girl the jumping spear. The animals' bodies began to burn. He was stunned by such smooth and precise coordination. He felt that this was his best move to immediately take on a ready team. Their strongest point was coordinated work from the very first battle. He changed class and ordered the Gandharbin squad to now also test what they were capable of. Roselina fought the bulls and analyzed the goblins. The Baron fought huge insects. Gandharbin felt that these three were too strong with such power, they didn't even need guards. Lin asked how Toy could change his appearance like that. Bars recognized them as that trio from rumors, Jujok pondered. The heroes finally got out of the dungeon. Toy's team now had 1 knight and 4 soldiers, but he still wanted to recruit 1 more. He remembered that Roselina was a debtor prisoner. If the master redeemed the debt, he could release her. Toy saw how strong she was and how skillfully she dealt with bandits, so he also wanted to give Analyz freedom, and the hero decided to talk about it with Zijin. Toy realized, from now on, having become a nobleman, he would have to give his all. Suddenly, he remembered that tomorrow he had a damn training with the instructor, and Ganderbin said they would go with him. Meanwhile, in the castle, the dissatisfied princess called Akaba. The boy was irritable. Bermuda could not understand how Akaba could throw a wounded comrade into the dungeon to die, and asked how he could call himself a hero after that. The boy sharply told the girl to be quiet. He thought she was making a fuss over some second-rate assistant. Akaba said that the most important thing was that he, the hero, returned alive and asked if she had a problem with that. Sayaka asked if Niba was among those who died, and the princess recalled that he was a porter, a special class from another world. She was told that the boy was very exhausted from hard labor and was regularly beaten by 3 heroes. The couple was convinced that Nuvo was to blame for his own death and said that if they had gone back for him, everyone would have died. The boy added that they would not return to the dungeon anymore. 8 hours ago in the dungeon, the squad was almost collapsing from exhaustion. Upon reaching the boss's room, they stopped to rest, and Akaba shouted to Niba to heal him. Knight interrupted him and said that now it was his turn he would be healed. The fire hero reminded them that if that boy had not fought, they would have one. When Akaba shouted to get up, one of the girls asked to rest a little longer. She said they had no more potions or food, and the return would take half a day. The heroine said she was not going to sleep outside for the 3rd time. Akaba was forced to agree and ordered the squad to return. Exhausted Nuba asked for a little more. Risthi's mana was depleted, and suddenly he stumbled, and the tiles beneath him began to collapse. During the fall, the boy broke his leg, so now he could no longer walk. Hearing all the details, the princesses could not believe that the heroes so easily abandoned the porter in such a state. The head of Hermity got a headache. She did not understand why none of them thought to drop the load and carry their comrade instead. The wizard addressed the princess and said that Nuba was a healer, so he would be able to restore mana and then heal himself. The girl thought that the boy would return as if nothing had happened. The alchemist explained that a fracture is a status effect, so it can only be healed by advanced restoration magic or at least additional healing, otherwise no way. The girl awkwardly said she did not know anything about this and added that at their level, he would not be able to be healed, to which her friend reminded her that she was also a healer. The hero noticed that even if the porter could walk, it would be difficult for him to return alone from the 3rd floor, and assumed that the boy was still in the chief's room. The girl said anxiously that because several people from their group attacked other seekers, now no one would want to help them, and added that if they were unlucky, they could simply be killed in revenge. The heroes flared up with indignation and anger. They asked if she really thought it was their fault. The girl declared that she would no longer work with them. The heroine said that this adventure was not fun at all. She started crying and said she wanted to go home. The princess began to think that they could send a squad of knights to help, but then people and sponsors would see it as the hero's failure. She knew that violent protests could not be avoided and understood. They themselves brought these people into this world, so they could not abandon them. Sayaka decisively said that she would go to save No, and that she had the ability to enhance the effect of items, so she could prepare a strong potion for the porter. The girl's friend looked at her and asked what she was thinking. She stopped her and asked how she planned to get to the 3rd floor with her combat profession. Mizusawa picked up Sayaka's idea and said he would serve alongside her, not knowing that the fracture required proper treatment, so he promised to help. The princess knew Mizusawa as a versatile hero skilled in attack, support, and healing, and also with medical knowledge from the old world. The girl was glad, said it was great news, and asked if he was okay since he had just returned from a campaign. Mizusawa assured me that everything was fine. They were only on the first floor, so they were not tired, and added that in any case they would go to the third floor the day after tomorrow. Akebi got angry because of how the Blue Sea hero behaved. Mizusawa was not sure if it would be possible to safely deliver a non-fighting team member there, so he asked the alchemist what her level was. Sayaka said that she reached level 18 yesterday. All the heroes present were completely taken aback. They did not expect such an answer at all. The girl said that she had fairly high indicators and that she had trained to throw combat items, so she was confident that she would not let the team down. Mizusawa reported that they would form a small group for speed and set off immediately after the training camp. Sayaka's friend began to fear for her. She could not understand why she, an artisan, dared to take such a risk. The girl admitted that she would not endure if something happened to her. Sayaka replied that she would definitely return. The alchemist looked at the princess and nodded. The squad led by the hero of the Blue Sea set off into the dungeon to rescue Nobi. Sika no longer retreated. She was confident that Fuji would have done the same if he were with them, and the heroes rushed into battle with the monsters. Nopa recalled how he was humiliated and mocked at school. He thought that even in the new world nothing had changed. The boy felt powerless against those who wronged him. He was sure that no one would come to his aid. Neba suddenly woke up and saw Sayaka, who was shining with joy that the boy had woken up. Nearby was the hero of the Blue Sea, who said that they had come to save him. He advised him to drink water. The porter was severely dehydrated. The young man could not believe that they had really come for him. Mizusawa advised Neba to be grateful to Sayaka. It was her potion that helped him survive and heal his wounds. The porter cried and thanked the heroes for the rescue. This story completely destroyed Akaba's reputation. His team split into 3 groups, and now 4 heroes acted separately and openly quarreled. Then Toy trained with the knights, where he was tormented by an evil instructor. But fortunately, with the arrival of the muscular Ganderban and Roselina, direct fights with Balkan became less frequent. The young man noticed that Analyz clearly felt out of place in the castle. The girl avoided people because she was a criminal. The hero found her on the street and invited her to go to lunch together. Analyz wanted to agree but did not want to bother the master. She was already about to say that she still needed to work, but he took her by the hand. Toy said that he did not care what others would say. He wanted to be with her, and added that the knight still remembered how she helped defeat the bandits. When the Baron met with Zajian, he said that freeing the goblin from slavery was not a problem, but with the elf it was more complicated. She was a slave of a petty criminal. Sigan suggested that the Duke could release her by his decree, but people would not understand if it did not look like a reward or punishment. The man recalled that the girl was cursed by aging. Because of this, the accident happened, and he realized that now it was possible to talk about mitigating the punishment. Zijin promised to inform the Duke about this and advised the hero to return to training. The strike of Ganderben's shield tore Toy from his thoughts. The man told the owner not to get distracted. The hero thought that although the bear was cruel, he was still better than Balkan. Roselina and the instructor were training behind them. She activated her ability and declared that she would fight to the fullest, and Balkan noticed the fighting spirit was also burning in her. The girl felt that a wild thirst for battle was raging in the opponent, but she was determined and not going to retreat. Rosalind's fist collided with Balkan's sword. Toy thought it was incredible. The hero's weekdays flew by in training, and on weekends he and his squad descended into the dungeon to fight bosses. Toy told the beastmen that they would go through 5 more floors. The squad considered Baron another evil trainer. The hero finally raised his class to the rare swordsman. He had long fulfilled the hidden conditions, defeated bosses, and hard training made this class available. The swordsman was incredibly strong. The young man immediately noticed that his skills included counterattacks, precise strikes, and self-support. It was useful to alternate these skills, and with their help Toy could instantly deal with cows on the floors. He did not want to be recorded in the papers as a traveler. It sounded humiliating, so he decided to change the class right in the temple and paid 200,000 yen for it. Toy officially became the Baron of the swordsman class. When he met Balkan, he felt the admiring glances of people on him. Analyz was training together with a mage who served at the Order of Knights. He thought that she was explaining the basics of the magical perception skill. The colleague raised an eyebrow in surprise. She uses this skill around the clock. And the girl explained that increasing sensitivity to magic accelerates progress in all other aspects of controlling it. So this is the shortest path, and added that over time they would even be able to distinguish people. He noticed the reactions of the other mages and began to suspect that Analyz might have told them something terrifying. He could not believe that she had lived all this time in complete concentration. Salidia and Lin increasingly grumbled because every day was either training or a dungeon raid. Bars noticed that their levels sharply jumped because of this, and Jajek said they would become much stronger if they continued to follow their master. After 3 weeks, rumors spread through the city about a terrible event. In the entertainment district, girls were being killed one after another. Their throats were slit, and within a month the number of victims exceeded 10. Because of this, the knights were urgently sent to patrol the city, and the training ended a week earlier. Vulcan said that the intensive futsal sessions were finished and added that they would continue if necessary. The man ordered the squad to go on patrol. He confessed to Analyz that although he was glad the training was over, he was still worried about the serial killings. The hero was summoned to the Duke. In the arcane department, they thanked him for participating in the training. The Duke noted that the young man had already gathered people for himself, and said that Zijin had already reported to him about the matter of his comrades. The man said with regret that he could not give a final answer yet, but promised that he would try. The Duke said he wanted to talk about the recent murders known as the Hooligan's Nest case. He understood that Toy might not have heard about it since he had recently arrived in the city. Arcane said that more than 10 years ago in El Knife, a nest of serial killers was executed for the murders of 8 girls. The man noticed that a murder with the same modus operandi is happening again. The Duke said that this time there were already more than 10 victims, was convinced it was the work of a professional killer, and that did not cheer him up in the least. The man asked if Baron had any information about the case, but the young man did not understand what it was about, so Arkan decided to say it directly. He confessed that he wanted him to catch the gang's nest. Roselina was officially accepted into service as a soldier and assigned to the Gondelband unit, and she sincerely hoped to serve alongside the commander. Lynn and Celidia looked confused. Roselina was bathing together with Lord Toy. Gundebald reminded the girl that from now on she was a soldier, so she must maintain proper relations with her lord. The goblin declared that now she would bathe with the commander. The bear replied that it was not about that at all. Bathing with Celilia, Lynn confessed that she could never have imagined walking the labyrinth every day, and then also swimming in the bath, and her friend agreed. The cat thought that all aristocrats were arrogant, but their master turned out to be completely different. Lisa added that the young man was also very pleasant. A girl was sitting next to him, and they asked who she was. The hero's estate had a separate wing for servants, so he decided to settle his squad there. Although they were formally considered vassals, in reality they were members of the Labyrinth research group. Even someone as skillful as Mondelok and his people could not handle everything. It was generally convenient that the servants lived very close by. He also hired another maid and a cook. The girl's name was Kenny. In her eyes, the Baron was a wonderful young man. When she greeted, she accidentally fell right in front of the gentleman. Toy knew that Kenny was very shy and did not get along with people, but rumors said that when she was alone she was a true professional. The young man helped her up and greeted her. The cook introduced himself as Zappa, said that the kitchen could be confidently entrusted to him, and apologized for not being able to speak politely. The hero immediately understood that he was from the south, and he could not cook better than Merle's. For the sake of experiment, Toy taught Zappa several dishes from his world, and Zappa reproduced them almost perfectly, and the young man slightly improved his cooking skills. Since the night squad led by Mr. Vulcan began patrolling, no new gifts appeared. Analyz and Toy stood on the balcony. The girl asked if the young man was thinking about that killer, and he confirmed, reminding that the Duke had asked him to deal with this case. Although the attack was stopped, the hero still doubted that the killer had left the city. That man suggested that the killer might just be waiting it out, and as soon as the knights relaxed their vigilance, he would start killing again. Toy told the Duke that, in his opinion, he would not be able to help. He said that the city guard had been trying to track him for a month, but in vain, and the Lord believed that there was no better candidate than the Baron. The hero realized that since he had asked Arkane to release Analyz, he had no choice but to agree. The young man sighed and promised to do everything in his power, but could not guarantee success. Since then, Toy had used the skill of invisibility several times and prowled the City of Knights, but in vain he found no one suspicious. The young man sat on the bed, deep in thought. He knew nothing about the motives of the criminal, nor about his identity. The hero was tormented by the question of whether the executed murderer could return from the dead, and increasingly realized that it might be a copycat. The boy wanted to lie down on the bed but accidentally lay on Analyz's lap and apologized. The girl stroked his head and confessed that at such moments she remembered the days when they were just beginning to explore the dungeons. Toy recalled that Analyz had moved to the soldiers' barracks, and this made the boy blush. He could not understand whether it seemed to him that some romantic atmosphere had formed around them. Suddenly there was a knock on their door. It turned out to be Mondelok. The young man asked with interest what had happened. He was told that Canny had not returned from the store, and Toy glanced in surprise. How could she go shopping so late? Julie apologized because he had made a mistake checking the ordered goods, and Kenny decided to go to the store herself. The maid said that the girl was supposed to return an hour ago, and bad rumors were spreading around the city. Mondark said that he and his son would go look for the maid, but the toys ran up and stopped them, asking, "Leave it to me, it will be faster this way." The heavy knight wanted to join the master, but the master said that he and the soldiers would stay at the estate, yet Gandalfin was determined. Toy agreed to take the boss and Jajak with him. The three of them rushed through the city streets. The store where Kenny had gone stood on the main shopping street. It was far from the entertainment district, so she was less likely to be attacked here. However, the hero assumed that the killer might have been looking for a victim exactly where the knights did not patrol. The young man had a disturbing premonition, and Toy told the soldiers that he would run ahead. Kenny walked, holding a bag of groceries close to her hands. The girl did not expect to be delayed so long due to a delivery mistake, but as an apology, they gave her some products. The maid decided to hurry because she did not want to disturb Master Jewel. Kenny decided to shorten the way, even despite the dark alley. After walking a bit, she heard a sound behind her and jumped. The girl turned around. She felt that someone was following her. When she didn't notice the stairs and fell, dropping the bag, Kenny started to run.